Hey, beautiful people. It is the last Friday of 2022. How do y'all feel about that? Okay, so tonight we are talking about why do Black folk, my people, continue to support dysfunctional behavior. But before we do, I would like to introduce our panelists for tonight. We have Mistaken, Team Della, Trigger Mike, Marcus, Saida, and the AP. My name is Shan Monet, formerly known as Shantae. This is a Chic critique. Okay, y'all can unmute now. I've said my monologue, my introduction. How's everybody doing, y'all? This is the last Friday of 2022. This was a pretty decent year for me. How about you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Same
nothing major, just
the most productive, successful year I've had in a while.
Oh wow, that's great.
Manifest that.
Okay, well that's good. That's good to hear. So tonight, well, let me just first of all say, I didn't even know who Tory Lanez was. But the internet has put me on game. Now I know a little bit more about the situation. Of course, I know who Megan Thee Stallion is, just because, of who she is. I don't really listen to her music, but I know who she is. And so when the incident happened, I kind of was in and out on what was going on. But when I heard the verdict, the internet, like, especially YouTube, it almost became like this gender war. And I'm like, what happened? So, of course, both Mistaken and I had to go and do our research to figure out what the heck was going on. And so my question is, why was there it was like it turned into a gender war, so to speak? Why do you guys think that is? Or is this not what people were thinking? It didn't come like
no, you hit it spot on, but I don't want to go first. Somebody else.
I was going to say, because I don't know if the viewers, because I wasn't aware. If you could just give a little background of the Tory Lanez and Meg Thee Stallion story.
Okay, so I saw the same video you saw, so I hope the story is correct. So basically what I saw, I ended up watching an attorney's side. It was a guy, he was unbiased. And so he was just reading the transcript. And from what I gather is, I guess they were in a car together and a gun went off. And that pieces of that gun, whether it be a bullet or fragments from the gun, ended up puncturing or hitting Megan. And so I think she changed her story a couple of times, I think. But he ended up being charged for, I think it was carrying a weapon, not unauthorized, but unregistered weapon, and some other things. What were the other things that he was charged for? Does anybody know? I know one was the weapon.
It's like assault with the firearm is the last one.
Okay, so he ended up being charged with it, but this has been going on since like 2020, I believe, and so it's been a continuous who did it kind of thing. Like, was it who's lying in the situation? And anyway, it ended up being men against women, and it's like and it's just turned into this gender war. Like I've heard so many channels, and it's like the women, then the men, and it's like, what? Am I missing something?
Yeah, what were because that part I didn't, because I don't be on internet that much. But in terms of the gender war aspect, I didn't know that there was necessarily a gender war. I just thought that there was a conflict in story where some people were saying that she was lying about what happened, and that and now he's going to be found guilty based on a lie or something like that. That was kind of the gist of what I heard. But what are, if anybody else, in terms of the gender war aspect, what, because people were, just saying that it was unfair, that he was found guilty, and there wasn't any evidence that really supported that claim. So,
I want
Okay, go ahead.
I like from an outside point of view perspective because I wasn't aware of none of them. I really don't like their music. I don't listen to it. I didn't even know who two of them were, and I only know Megan because she was on Cardi B's video or something like that. I don't know. But if I didn't know all the information that I've gathered from the panels, I will never took it as if it was a gender war because that only happens there, if it makes sense. Like,
Well, we're talking about obviously
he
on
been
panels on
right.
the air, like the internet street. We're not talking about like when we walk outside.
No. But these things happens because I've heard, like women lying, saying that a man raped them, and that hasn't happened. I'm not saying that doesn't happen anywhere in the world. It does. However, there is an investigation that happens. I'm not quite sure how long it's been, to be honest, but there's an investigation. So the first thing that comes to my mind is like, there was a weapon there. Whose weapon is this? It's like, oh, there's a weapon. Nobody's carrying a weapon. Where, who got this? So there is someone irresponsibly carrying a gun. What for? If you don't have registration, you haven't done a psychology test to get a weapon. So to me, you are not supposed to be carrying a weapon. That's the way. Because in my country, in order for you to have a weapon, you must go through a psychology test. And I know Trigger Mike is like, oh, because that's his business. I get it. I understand. But that's why, I can actually, I feel in peace to send my daughter to school because I know no shootings is going to happen. We never had that before. So all I'm saying is that the first thing that comes to my mind is who was carrying, who's the owner of that weapon? Number one. Number two is like, do you have a registration to have the weapon? Because when you do have that, you are responsible for that weapon. And you're not just going to leave it unattended somewhere when someone can just get it and then it's under your name. That's the way it is for us. So you are responsible for it. But again, it's just a behavior that happens. People can carry those whenever they want to, wherever they go. And I'm like, was he really trying to harm her? And he actually shoot on the ground and then the fragments kind of like, got to her, or was in between the girls? Nobody knows. And what I learned is that someone lied. There was alcohol involved. You never remember what you're doing if you're too drunk. So it obviously will take time, for you to investigate what's going on. They say that it's not fair for him. I really don't know. I cannot say that. But what I can say is that there's a lot of women out there also getting shot. And nobody's saying that men are trying to attack these women intentionally. It's only when a man happens to a man. And I'm not on nobody's side. I'm just saying that this happens on a daily basis. So why does it have to be a war?
So does anybody else want to add on to that?
The gender war part, I think you were absolutely right. It has sparked a mini gender war. I didn't notice it for a very long time until I started. You got to jump in the comments. It's not really, stuff you hear on YouTube. You got to go to the comments on these posts and just read the debauchery. Oh my goodness. So that's where I realized that I think at the beginning of the trial, right? And I'm not one for let's just put it out there. All of this is conjecture. The only people that know what happened were the three people there. You know what I mean? Everything we hear or the opinion we have, it's all conjecture. None of us were there, and none of us know what happened. But what I'm really upset about and why I believe this gender war started, it's the toxicity around the situation and the lies. The reason why, I look at Meg Thee Stallion like shouldn't have did certain things is because she weaponized an entire movement to control a narrative, right? The protect black women thing and all of that. That was more of a movement to get people on her side, right? Court, especially things dealing with friends and people that you really want to keep that low key, especially as a rapper. We got a no snitching culture, all of that. So it's weird because this is the thing about Black people and the American justice system. Just 2 years ago, Black women were championing a cause saying the U.S. justice system is not good enough to give justice to the Black people we want justice for, right? And then 2 years later, they're now saying the American justice system is good enough to seek justice for Black women when it's against a Black man. That is what I got a problem with, because now all of a sudden the justice system is just and it's good enough, and you take it at its word because Megan Thee Stallion got justice. That's really what I have a problem with. And then again, as we've seen and we always know, they did not put Tory Lanez on trial. They have a bad habit in this country of putting someone's past on trial. All I worry about and all I care about is the incident that occurred. What the state of California versus Tory Lanez for that incident. Don't put his history on trial. And that's what they did with all of these campaigns, baller alert, shade room, all the stuff that they were saying. You put his history on trial. And then I feel like we did so much of that just reading what was going on a day-to-day, they created reasonable doubt without a shadow of a doubt. They say you have to find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They created so much reasonable doubt that very few people thought he was going to get convicted on all counts. I figured he was going to get convicted on something, not all counts. That's why I feel like when she weaponized this movement against him and people, and we're talking about Black people. So when Black women jump behind a cause and give it so much popularity, they don't feel anything by just throwing the book at them, and that's what they did.
So let me ask you a quick question while I'm on, and then I'm going to go to you, Marcus. So in your opinion, if you watched your trial, you're saying that you side with him.
So we got to be careful with the words. I don't side with him.
But it seems like a lot of your concerns were from her.
I was going to say, for this, I don't think he was ever going to get off. It's a man and two women in the car, and there's a gun. Who do we think that gun belongs to? Right? He's a rap. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Well, there was 4 people in the car. Yeah. She didn't have to be the only person to speak up. Why didn't the driver say anything, or the other girl?
Yeah, so we assuming he was going to get charged on something. You can't get off on all those 3 with all of that going on. They're going to nail something to somebody. But I don't know. I don't take his side. I'm looking at the law as written. So when I'm looking at the case, I'm like, reasonable doubt. Is anybody creating reasonable doubt? And they actually did, because they shot Megan's credibility to hell. And
didn't the eyewitness say that they saw a girl get out of the car and shoot?
There was so much. There was so
much.
The
eyewitness said that they saw, and that was, I believe they were referencing the girl that had the ballistics on her hand, and she was seen shooting a gun as well. So I mean, I think obviously, so for me in that moment, y'all are so drunk, you're so belligerent. No one really has any idea at that point if both of y'all shot towards her, which is the craziest thing. It's just like hearing, like when I heard it briefly, I'm just like, that's absolutely insane. Like, these are your friends, people that you're supposed to trust. Y'all get into an argument, y'all are drunk, and you're shooting at her. Like, she's crawling towards the sidewalk and y'all are literally like shooting at her. So I think the whole story is just, it sounds like it needs to be like it would be a movie, like it wouldn't even be like real life. In the same breath, it's like they were both shooting. So who did the bullet come from at that point? And if that's the case, then they should both be held accountable.
So wait a minute, she was outside, because the video I saw a video, and it was the cops surrounded the car and she got out the car. So are you saying she got back in the car?
So apparently, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from the brief snippet that I saw, that there was an eyewitness who saw and heard the whole, or a good bit of it. He saw a woman shooting and then saw two men outside of the car. He was saying how like the shortest man was like going insane. He was screaming and saw, like I guess when the gun goes off and it makes like a flash, that like little, I'm not sure what it's called, but he saw that coming from the shortest man. So he identified two shooters.
So go ahead, Marcus, because there was a video, audio, and I'm pretty sure Marcus is going to mention that was
right. Yeah. Can y'all first read his actual charge, what he got found guilty of? Like let's make sure we get that. And so at the beginning, I was like, he ain't do that. It don't make sense. You feel me? Like why would this young man shoot at her? It really seemed like some two girls fighting over him, hitting both of them, and then him trying to hit the other girl at the pool party. They got the fighting and it just went crazy from there. But then that audio leaks, and I was like, you know what? Bro probably did that shit. I ain't gonna hold you. When I heard that audio, I wasn't there, so I can't say. But after I heard that audio, it also let me know, like, from the propaganda we was getting from the public and the media, neither one of them could have got a fair trial because it did turn into a gender war. Men was on one side, black men was on one side, black women was on the other side. Like, we want justice. Y'all using this system and weaponizing it against us. And there's an undertone for other things that's going on within the community where black men feel like you mad at me about something and you call the police and bring them to our house and use them as an intervention to get your revenge on me. So I think that was underpinning of different things that actually are going on within society, and it played out via this case. It's unfortunate that the young lady got shot, or not even shot, that she got hurt, right? Because I don't think she got shot either. I think she stepped on glass. But I do think the firearm was discharged. I think both of them discharged the firearm.
So let me
got held accountable for it.
So I tried to get a video uploaded, but
she got shot together.
So can you guys hear me? So I try to get it just to clarify, because I don't want so this is the information I received, and the chat can tell me if it's correct or not. But I saw an attorney, he read the transcript because I don't want to have misinformation from what I know. Okay, so he read the transcript and he said what happened was, and he showed a video of them getting out the car. Megan did not have any clothes on, and the other young lady had gotten out the car as well. They had their hands up, and according to the report, Megan did not tell the truth. She said she did not remember seeing a gun, blah, 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 blah. But then her story changed after that incident because the police reported what they saw, and the police reported that she was injured. And then they actually they saw the gun. The gun was in the front seat, which was where Mr. Lane was sitting. It was beside where he was sitting, and they touched it. It was warm. And it was called, I guess, something in the chamber. I don't know.
Gunshot.
Okay.
Oh, you called him Mr. Lane. Let's address that first.
Well, so what's his name?
Daystar
Tory Lanez. Yeah, Daystar Peterson.
Okay, whatever. T Lane, whatever. So it was in the chamber. So this is what the police reported. Even though she denied the fire going off, the police knew that there's something had gone on just because of the gun and everything. At that time, when he made this report, the girl Chelsea did not step up. But then I read more stuff, and it said that Chelsea didn't want to testify. And I'm thinking, well, go to the driver. And it's like, why are y'all not? We're trying to save this young man. If he didn't do anything wrong, why are so many people quiet?
Well, that was my whole perspective on it, because again, if there were two shooters and you don't know who actually, you know what I mean? If there were two shooters at some point, you don't know which individual.
Well, there was only one gun found. There was not.
Yeah, but both of them tested positive for ballistics, and the eyewitness saw a woman shooter and saw a male shooter. And so there were two shooters. And so at some point, everybody's belligerent. Nobody has really any real recollection of, the entire night, of any kind of, consistently throughout the night. Now you have two shooters. You don't really know who shot you at the end. But to answer your question, Marcus, they pulled bullet fragments out of her foot. So at some point, the evidence just leads to the fact that she was she was shot. And at some point, we just can't negate the facts that are being presented.
I saw two different medical reports. That's why I don't believe she was shot. I saw two different medical reports. One said that it was possible fragments in it, and there was a whole nother report that said that it was no fragments and it was glass in there.
Yeah.
So let's try to now. Was that the charge for shooting? The charge? What was the charge?
So that's why I say
you also got to notice that it's very hard. So if they say they had an eyewitness, they also had an eyewitness for Tory Lanez possibly shooting the gun, I think. So if he shot her, like the charge was assault. So if she had a through and through gunshot wound, those would have been way more severe charges. Attempted manslaughter, something.
He aimed below the waist.
That's why I'm like, but
it wouldn't be manslaughter for that.
The thing, so I don't know if y'all know, I'm into guns. I'm a gun dealer, gun instructor, all of that. The report read shrapnel. You don't have shrapnel in your leg from getting shot, especially in your foot. She had like what they say surgery to remove. Y'all do know getting stitches is considered surgery. It's considered minor surgery. So when people say surgery, they could be blowing that way out of proportion. To remove glass is surgery, right? Out of a foot. But shrapnel doesn't come from that. It really means the bullet hit somewhere else.
And maybe ricochet into
exactly. Hit close to her, hit the ground. She stepped on it while she was stepping in glass. Like that's why I'm like, you don't write a report as shrapnel for a through and through gunshot wound. And then if you actually get shot in your foot, everybody look at their foot right now and look how close those bones are together. You're going to require major surgery.
The fact that her body was hit by shards, whether it was ricocheted, is that not a problem? Because
we're not saying that.
And I ask that way because even kind of the way that you're presenting it, Trigger Mike, and it's kind of from my perspective is the narrative online as well, where it's very minimizing, where it's like, well, it's only. I mean, they don't do that.
I definitely don't mean to minimize it. What I'm saying is that they're being so vague. And remember when I said they're weaponizing movements against it? A big part of that is he shot her. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, he pointed and meant to do serious bodily harm by aiming a gun and shooting. That is not what happened, given the evidence provided.
So let me ask you a question.
Let me say this.
Go ahead. Because the AP
I'm not like say that my daughters came and say Tory Lanez shot them. It's time. It's gonna be
exactly like
it's time to move. But we just specifically removing because I think we give it as a given that it's wrong if anybody get hurt. Like that's a given. So maybe we should have put that disclaimer up first. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think Trigger Mike and me is celebrating anybody.
No, we're not, and I'm definitely not minimizing the entire incident. Is sad. You wish it never would have happened. But I feel this is such a bad comparison. But let me make it anyway. Do you know why I feel like what's his name that killed Trayvon Martin? You know why he got off?
Zimmerman.
You know why he got off? Because the public outrage forced the prosecutor's office to overinflate charges so they wouldn't get backlash from the public, right? He would have been in jail. He'd still be in jail on manslaughter. And so that is what they could prove, right? You couldn't prove murder. You could only prove manslaughter, and that's why he got off. This same thing happened here where she yelled, well, people were saying he shot her. Now, so you see what I'm saying? So now they weaponize that hatred toward him, thinking he did pure vicious with malicious intent assault on her, right? You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying, we can't prove that. Nobody.
I think what's black and white in this moment is the fact that regardless of what happened, you took a gun out and shot it in proximity enough for bullets, whatever, to hit someone else. And that's a problem. Like you are, I mean, who knows? Had he maybe been 1 inch over, the girl could be dead. You know what I mean? Like,
I think the bottom line is that we can't justify irresponsible behavior. So when you're doing something in a process, whether your intent was one thing or another, when you're being irresponsible, that is sometimes the outcome of irresponsible behavior is that people get hurt. Like even when we, justify fighting, like that's a big, like kids don't understand or teens don't understand or people in the middle of a situation, you start fighting. The intent may not be to kill somebody, but when you're fighting, you can punch somebody, in the head some way and kill them. So all of these are outcomes that could potentially happen. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, you're in a car with a gun that, that is unregistered. So right there, you already know that you're in the wrong with that, right? And then you take it out, you're drunk, which is another red flag. And then you take it out and you shoot it. So whether your intent was to scare her or you didn't mean to do it, the bottom line is that someone got injured. So if nothing else, at the end of the day, he should be held accountable for that.
It's like going outside and shooting a gun in the air and then the bullet ends up killing somebody or hitting someone. And it's like at some point,
so
you have
we
to
absolutely
understand that,
like
and I don't even think he was legally able to have the gun in his possession. No,
absolutely no,
So-
he wasn't. So
right? No, he wasn't. Right, and I guess that's
absolutely.
testament to
So
the
this
whole
is
reason why
this is what
the gun.
we do this a lot, and this is what I was trying to like steer the conversation off of a little bit. Where everything you're saying, I agree with. I'm not here caping for Tory Lanez. I personally wouldn't want my daughter hanging with somebody like that. I wouldn't put myself in a situation to be in that type of environment where things like that can happen. But we do this thing, especially with Black people, where we always give a moral purity test, right? But we're talking about something that has real legal implications. So just because it involves a Black woman and just because the defendant is a Black man, now all of a sudden our assumptions must be over the law, right? So that's what I'm saying. What was he charged with? Can they prove it? That's what I'm saying.
No, I asked that in the beginning. I asked that, can we read exactly what the charges
and I don't
was?
believe they did. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with the morality of the situation. Everybody was wrong and messed up in that car. Tory Lanez should not be with women in in any kind of situation involving a gun, like you shot, like possibly shooting it. The whole situation screwed up, right?
Okay,
That shit is crazy.
I just want to jump in real quick because somebody pulled a gun. I don't know the facts of the case, but here's what happened. Somebody pulled a gun. Somebody had shards of gun or shrapnel or whatever in their foot. Somebody had to get stitches. He was charged with assault with a semi-automatic firearm, possession of a concealed, unregistered firearm, negligent discharge of a firearm. Went to court. Whether we believe he did it or not is if we're not on the jury, is irrelevant. The jury found him guilty. That to me is the end of it. In regards to the gender war, I don't think that it was that particular case that started a gender war. That goes back much further than 2020, right? 2020. The internet gave men, and finally men were able to get a voice. And ever since we've had that voice, we've been getting pushback from women in regards to how we use that voice. And one of the examples I like to use is when Ice Cube went and spoke at the table with I don't even remember the four women, and they attacked him because he didn't have anything in the plan for Black America that specifically said women. Absolutely insane to me. But finally, men got the option to speak out and speak up. For years, and I'm talking what 5 decades, Black men specifically have been losing their power, especially inside of the Black family. Once the Black family was broken up, basically I'd say the family was lost, but the community was lost. Now we're in a place to where Black men are able to speak out about these things and say, hey, we need you to get in line or get out of the way. And I think that's more or less what the war is. It had nothing to do with Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, two people I don't even listen to. and I'd probably argue that most of the people up here on this panel don't even listen to these people. Like it started before them. They weren't a catalyst. They weren't a catapult. They weren't anything but a blip in the radar of a black man being found guilty of assaulting a black woman. That's really what happened in this case. And since we're not on the jury, and regardless if we think that there is doubt, the jury thought without beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. So I mean, he did it. He must face the consequences. Of course, I'm sure he'll appeal. He'll end up with something light, and that'll be once that's run its course. That'll be the end of it. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think this is part of, I guess, that goes back to kind of the title, is that a lot of times on both ends, women and men both, in the Black community, is that we try to justify and support dysfunctional behavior instead of calling it what it is. Like this situation, everybody may not agree with the way, the story was told or what have you. But at the end of the day, we all can agree that the behavior itself of what occurred was not appropriate. Therefore, the outcome, you can't do appropriate or inappropriate behavior and then want to choose the outcome or the consequences that come from that behavior. The bottom line is just don't do the behavior so you can avoid whatever consequences that may come your way. And like even the other day, I was watching a thing. What is the name of the girl who tried to start the slut walk, and she used to be a stripper? Amber Rose, and was trying to justify, about strippers, like women being able to strip, let them make their money, leave them alone, stop policing their bodies, and blah blah blah. Like, because a guy was trying to say, listen, this isn't the way to do that. They shouldn't do that. But, and then here we have women trying to justify that behavior. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of times we get caught up in trying to justify behavior that's not a benefit to any of us. And that's what we need to stop. We need to call out, regardless men or women, if the behavior isn't going to benefit us as a whole, then we need to check it.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I absolutely agree. Does anybody else have anything to say about this?
I got a question. Do y'all think if he was sentenced to the maximum of 20 years, knowing what you heard in that, from what we hearing, do you think that's a fair sentence if he got sentenced to the max? I don't think he's gonna get the max, but
hell no.
Yeah, no, that's a bit much.
I think that would be, the punishment doesn't necessarily
fit that crime. I think that, I don't think that would be overboard, a lot overboard. But I have a question. It's so funny because we were talking about dysfunctional behavior. I came across, and I tried to upload this too, but for whatever reason it wouldn't upload. I came across a video, and if you guys, and I don't mind putting it in the chat so that people can see the video if you have Facebook. There's a new show coming out, and it's like, you guys remember back in the day Banging in Little Rock?
Yeah.
We're like they're banging in Alaska.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that preview?
Yeah, I watched it.
It's like it's like a whole little Banging in Alaska. It's not called Banging in Alaska, but it's gonna always be banging in something to me. But it's like Banging in Alaska, and it's like basically they're hoods in Alaska, so to speak. And my question, and it was so funny because I saw this post, and in the comments, if I show y'all this, make sure you read the comments, because the comments were like the comments did not fail. You hear me? But one of the guys in the comments asked a question, and his question was, what do you think our fascination with this type of behavior is? Like, why do you think that that's so appealing to us? Like that whole, I don't want to say hood.
No, you can say it. It's all true.
Okay, that whole hood, behavior. Why is that so fascinating to Black people?
Well, it's not.
I don't know.
It's not called banging, and that's just what I'm gonna put it in the back chat. I'm about to put it in there.
I think it's because Black American set the tone for cool internationally, and when certain aspects of the culture get propped up, that becomes the standard. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of things feed from down below, like a lot of the link on stuff that like the term like the term
He's upstairs. Okay.
you on mute. You got mute up.
You're not on mute.
I'm sorry, my daughter's talking to me. It's I try to be a mom and just needed
yeah. No, I
my
know.
bad. I do apologize, you guys.
What's the term they used? Fleet, right? So I remember like when we were saying that in Marvel for a long time. Then they changed it and put a K on it and changed it to Fleet. And then it became a college kid word. Then they start talking about it in the entertainment industry. And it's like a lot of the stuff from the hood bleeds up, right? And then people adopt it, and then they find ways to monetize the appropriation. And because of that, it gets exported to everywhere. And when people think of the standard of what's cool, it always comes back to us. We just the only ones that don't monetize it correctly or draw paywalls around it, so we protect what our image collectively and the monetization of said image. Like right now, if you look at what happened with rock and roll traditionally was our music. The way we would say rap is our music. I guarantee you, rap won't be our music in 10 to 15 years. Watch what I tell you. It's already being pushed. And we just going along with it, like, no, because we so inclusive of everybody and everything. But sometimes some cultures have language barriers that create those cultural walls to prevent it. We speak English, so we dare to rights there. Then we don't control the means of production for a lot of things, so we dare to rights there. Then we don't have the proper network set up, so we dare to rights there. Like it needs to be a reformation on how we. I'm on your. Okay, hold on one second, baby.
It's kids' night tonight, honey. Listen, the parents, the baby.
Yeah, I locked it. I locked this room because they here now.
You said you like them.
Look, I just put the link in the chat for the people in the chat if they want to go and watch what I'm talking about. And I'm trying to figure out because I'm on my phone and I'm on here, so I'm gonna try to download it. Do you guys have access to the chat? I don't know if you guys have access to the chat, but I sent the link or whatever. But and I hear what he's saying, but he's saying we should have creative control over that. Like my thing is this: why would I even want that? Like that's not a representation. That's not even something I want to even represent. Like, well, why do we need to know that there's a hood in Alaska? There's a hood everywhere. Like, why is this getting Showtime? Like, of all the documentaries you can do, why are we looking at a hood in Alaska?
All right, so
if you think about it, it's the programming. Like when you talk about what you watch, what you listen to, what you feed into your subconscious, they understand that, a lot of parents, especially in middle to lower classes, they've got TVs in every single room, TVs in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in every kid's room. Kids are on iPads and this, that, and a third. And so then you use this kind of programming and this propaganda to push out of, honestly, what is distracting. It is what is programming the masses to really feel like that's the reality. And I think there's such a disconnection between people understanding how deliberate of creators that we actually are. And it's what we focus our energy on, what we focus our thoughts on, that we end up co-creating and taking form in real actual life. And so, I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends about this the other day. It's like the whole manifesting culture that's like going on right now, where all the girls and all, the girlies and the guys is like, oh, I'm manifesting, I'm co-creating this, that, and the third. You don't even understand the process of what that looks like. And it starts from what you are feeding your thoughts and your emotions and what you're directing that to. And so, this trash TV and, the lyrics to a lot of these songs, like, even the new SZA album. I mean, I can't listen to the album. Like there's like one song on there where it's like, I think it's called like Conceited. That's like the only song that I listen to because it's so dysfunctional and it's so toxic. And it's like, why would I feed my mind and my subconscious? Like my subconscious doesn't know the difference, the fact that I'm listening to a song and that I'm singing this aloud. And so, I think that these TV shows, it's all in alignment. And unfortunately, people they're not really making the connection as a collective to kind of stay away from stuff like that.
And the thing is, too, is that when we consistently talk about, well, the problem is we don't control the narrative and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, we do. If we are giving uh, this behavior or these, we're giving people an opportunity to monetize the bad behavior. So what I'm saying is if we eliminate the bad behavior, then we don't give anything for that to be monetized. And I think one of the things that Shannon and I had talked about earlier was, a lot of times when we're trying to give credibility to being Black or our Blackness, we bring up I grew up in the hood. You know what I'm saying? And when someone says that, we know that there are certain behaviors and a mindset that goes along with that. And a lot of it is survival when you're growing up in an environment like that. But I beg that the question should be, why do so many of us have those similar stories of saying, I grew up in a hood? I think that's the bigger issue. Why are so many of us have grown up in environments that are in the hood, that's unsafe?
That is very easy to answer, mistaken. So that was going to be a part of my answer. Okay, so this is going to happen and keep happening because of one reason. There is no issue that the Black community suffers from that cannot be traced back to fatherlessness. Not one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for
All
saying
right.
it.
So that's where the dysfunction comes from, and then we're dealing with it all the way down the line. So I'm gonna try something here. Let's see if I can make this analogy work. I heard once, or I think I watched something or read something, that when Black people were slaves in this country, they were given the worst parts of the pig to eat after they've cooked for their masters, and that's where chitlins come from. Anybody in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong.
That's
So
correct.
even though you were given the worst parts of the pig, you still had to make it taste good to be edible for your consumption. That I take that direct analogy and I flip it over into the way people act and like dysfunction today. You're given the worst neighborhoods, you're given the worst schools, you're given the worst education, okay? But you still got to make it look good. And that's where we get this love for dysfunction from, right? Because it's all you know, it's all you have, it's all you've been given. So you got to put some flavor on it to make it palatable to the world. And that's where it looks like, why are Black people so in love with this crazy stuff? Why are y'all marketing just ignorance to the mainstream? It comes from that cycle, that particular cycle.
Yeah, but I guess for me is, I don't know in any other culture, just across the board, where most people, and I think most of us are kind of in I don't want to say embarrassed, but don't necessarily agree per se with the behaviors that occur, but it appears that we glorify that. But if you grew up in that environment, most people who lived in that environment don't want to be there. Right? So those who grow up in the hood want to get out of the hood, but it appears a lot of times that we glorify it so much, like in rap songs, in media, the videos about, like she just brought up with the Alaska talk, like that's the part that I don't like. As soon as we got to the point where we were able to afford a home, guess what? My family moved out of that environment because it isn't a safe environment to raise a family.
Well, it is a very complex issue, and I definitely am not talking from the victim side because I'm on that side, right? I'm never going to the hood. I live in a very nice suburban neighborhood. I'm definitely going to teach my kids why they should never end up there, and all of that. I'm looking at it, America. So, as a child of an immigrant, let me try to explain it this way: America has a very unique problem. Y'all got the richest poor people in the world. Shit is crazy. I'm telling you, it doesn't even. It's weird. So even as people are poor, they have this weird sense of entitlement here because of the government and the entitlements that they get from them. Right? You could be poor in the projects, your light go out, you're gonna go down to the housing authority to turn it back on when you could have just got a job. When they've been knocking your door down saying they're giving out jobs down the street, so you could pay your rent and keep electricity in your home. So there's a weird sense of entitlement here, right? And that is kind of what is perpetuating this cycle. And I also believe that because it's weird. Some black people say y'all don't have a culture, but y'all do. Y'all have your own food. You got your own music. You have your own styles of clothing. That is the makings of a culture, or at least a subculture turning into a burgeoning culture. You sell your culture all around the world. So yes, black people do have a culture. And when you have a culture, you seek validation inside of it. And that's the issue. We talk to our girls in the black community saying they should want a man like me, an educated man, someone who went to school, he takes care of his kids, he drives a nice car, he take care of all the bills. You should want a man like that, but they love the hood dude though. Even a dude, even if even if they're trying to go get a dude above that, then what do they say? He got to have some hood in him though, right? Because they want the validation from where they came from. Unless you're willing to leave that behind, you cannot progress in life past that. They want the valid, like when we see certain people get killed in the clubs and killed in the hood, and you got to scratch your head like, I went to college with that person. What were they still doing there? It's because they go back there for validation, right? They go to work on Wall Street, but they want to take their S-Class Mercedes around the hood to show everybody what they did. So it's that culture that they're seeking validation from, and it's because you don't do that in the slums of Nigeria, because you like, no, I left, I'm gone. But here we have such a weird class of poor people, right? They're so entitled and all of that you want to go out there and stunt and still be friends with them. So that's one of the weird, things that I
Uh,
see.
well,
Mark,
I'd kind of. Oh, go ahead, Marcus.
yeah, I was just gonna say, go ahead.
All right, so I'm probably gonna differ from all of y'all on this perspective. I never wanted to escape the neighborhood. I never had that thought. I knew I had to go outside of it to get some resources, but my goal was to always come back. No matter what, I was always gonna come back and be attached and affiliated. And my neighborhood has shown me reciprocal energy. I'll put it like that. It's we talked about this before, me and AP, and we were saying like people usually cheer for us. I mean, anywhere it's gonna be some haters. So it's always a select group of people. But my experience been excellent. I can't even outside of the ills that some people go through of them being in poverty and not having all the resources to fully help everybody that I like to be able to help. I don't got like I wouldn't want to live around other people other than my people. I'm gonna keep it a being. I know everybody don't share that perspective, but that's personally my perspective. Like,
Well, Marcus, we kind of share a similar opinion, and this would be my argument to trigger Mike. Yes, you leave to find and get resources, but you come back to try to change the mentality of the hood with the resources that you have now gained. And you try to grow the hood more into a true neighborhood. For example, now, and I could actually walk up and down the street and show you, but now there, instead of people throwing their trash just anywhere, now there are waste receptacles where they can throw the trash. And I know that's something small. I get it. I get it. I know that's something small, but those are the kind of changes that it will take to get people to be more comfortable. I guess it's the word I'm looking for. It's not the word really, but
So
to have a higher standard of lifestyle. It's
right. Like they take pride. The
you
people
know,
now take pride in keeping the neighborhood clean. If you can keep it clean, then you can keep it safe. And I've been here 6 years, and it is a world of difference. Yes, did I have to door knock? Absolutely. Did I have to get people on board? Yes. But that is something that I decided to take on and try to get everybody in this and on this particular block. And my next venture is up the block. It's taking a while to change the mindset. And I think that should be the goal, is to change the mindset. Now back onto something that you said earlier, Trigger Mike. People back in the day, and looking at it from a 90s point of view, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't have an urge to get out because everything in your mind is fine, you don't want to get out. You just don't. You just don't. Brianna, right now it's Gastonia, North Carolina, to answer a person in the chat's question. Um, but I knew through sports that there was more than just the four walls of my. I lived in a project, so it was more than the four walls of those projects. And then I tried to take some people with me, and they didn't quite understand, and they didn't quite get it, and they didn't really want to see a new way of life. But every time I go back, I get somebody else on board. So that's always my goal. And I think if we all took that mindset, I think that we could all kind of elevate instead of keeping this the hood is good mentality.
Yeah, so you're right. We do disagree heavily. There's nothing no one at the individual level can do and has done to make sweeping changes for Black people, and that's why we're kind of held back as a people. Everything we do is at the micro level and not the macro. I feel like anyone
is to do it for us. I think.
Yeah, so I'm trying to make my overall example. Do you know what? So I grew up, well, in the hood in New York City, and then moved back to Nigeria, then by the hood in Virginia, in Portsmouth, Virginia. All I owe the hood is a good example. That's it. Everybody, so I just want to make this. How many whites do we hear about them going back to the trailer park? None.
We different people.
Hold on. But we've heard about them buying the trailer park. We've heard about them buying the corner store by the trailer park. You see what I'm saying? So that is more so what I believe needs to happen when we talk about helping the hood and doing things for, the people there. At some point, we got to be on a macro type level with it. I definitely understand what you're saying about helping individual people that you're close to and all of that. And I think it goes into even what you said. The people, unless they want to escape, they won't escape, which is why helping most of those people is a lost cause. Unless you're going to create a macro solution for them, then you can't help them. You like Jay-Z can't help. He got billions and he hasn't done enough to help. You see it on a micro level. So that's why I'm like, y'all hearts are in the right place. I'm an alpha. I do community service stuff out there all the time. And I'm still like, ooh boy, if I'm gonna do something really big, it's going to have to be my example that shows them. They're gonna have to see a Black man opening a charter school and say, I only want the Black boys. Because when they lead the community, right? If I teach them how to put on a tie, if I teach them how to talk in corporate America, and I'm not going to ask them what they want to do. I'm going to tell them 20% of you are going to be nurses and doctors. The other 20 are going to be lawyers. If we start doing that, that's when you will see these boys, when they have resources, they'll marry Black women because that's what Black men with resources do.
How can you do that?
So that is how you
go back to the hood to do it?
Well, he said he just go back. He's just not going to stay. You guys are trying to live there. I mean, it's okay to go back in the daytime, do the school thing, educate, and then leave. Why would you want to move? Well, I never heard anybody say I want to move to the hood. Like that's so weird. That's like I get to help, like to definitely go visit, help, even if it's daily. But why would you want to put your family in the middle of the hood, like to be raised in the hood? That's just
we can't continuously be afraid of our own people. At some point, when it
comes to my children, sir,
I have not. I've had zero mistakes. Like here's the deal: I've had zero incidents though. So if I can go back and change the way people, at least the people that I can I can touch here. Change the way they see it. Change the way people think about it, and just get it to where we all start to look out for each other like it used to be, but with men in the home,
Let me
then we
think,
make change. But it's running away. Running away doesn't won't
So
ever
I
fix.
think there's just
Won't
a
ever fix.
difference. I think there's just a lack of the meeting of the minds here because you said that you're in Gastonia, North Carolina, right?
Correct.
Very country, very spaced out. I would assume
Not
that.
at all, actually.
Oh, I've been.
they've
I
been
guess I
building
had a
that
different.
area up
I'm
for a
I'm
minute.
I'm I'm here right now. I
No,
wish I could
I
have
got
my
you.
phone
I've
on
been.
my
I
phone.
just said I had a different experience. I'm not negating your experience either. I'm just saying I had a different experience.
You say it kind of spread out.
Yeah,
It's
like
kind of
it's country was my
it.
was
Where'd you go?
alluding.
Wait, I think when you
just
compare
let's
to the
listen to
North,
the.
I'm trying to listen, but when you live somewhere, it's hard to
We know that different hoods are on different levels of danger.
And that's the point that I'm getting to, where it's like I think we just have a different definition of hood because maybe we're seeing visually what I am envisioning in my mind is not a hood that anybody on this platform would say, I'm gonna go live in. And so I think that there are.
It's 3 blocks up.
You said what?
Never. Go ahead.
No,
I'm
go
listening.
ahead. No, go ahead. I'm listening.
We
yeah,
go about 3 blocks up. We got prostitution. Go 2 blocks over that.
but
Two
why would you
blocks
want your
over
kids to be exposed to that? Like, I don't understand. Like,
and that's
because
why we left. That's exactly why
it's
no,
we
about the
left.
kids. It's not. I understand that you want to go back and do your missionary work, which is great. But why would you want to expose your children to that? Like, I don't want my child to
so my
drive by a half-naked woman selling her coochie on the side of the road. But that's just me.
so
Are
so
you
there.
in
My kids are
gentrified
fortunate.
town?
My kids have experienced 2 different lives. One of the suburbs where I used to live, and one here, and they got a great dose of the different realities of living in both. One in the suburbs, it's you got 2 parents, everybody has decent stuff. Here, you get 1 parent, and they're scrapping around. So all of this is teachable for me, and it is up to me to guide them in the right way so they understand the down and the up. That's up to me. So
Maybe it's his calling,
when we
y'all.
talk, I'm sorry.
I said maybe it's your calling.
Well, yeah, and that's I think everybody when we say give back, I don't think everybody gives back in the same manner. Everybody has different gifts. Some people are better able to be hands-on and go back to the hood and relate and be able to help that way. Some people, like you might have certain teachers that will work in underserved, underprivileged, neighborhoods and go teach so they can be the example in that way. Some people may donate funds within a community to help the community center have different programs. So my thing is when I say give back, I don't necessarily mean give back in terms of you have to physically be there to do it. What I'm saying is giving back in a sense of trying to help uplift the community that you came from, or communities that are at risk, because all of the kids are the ones that are going to grow up and then either perpetuate the same behaviors that they seen growing up, or they can be able to encounter somebody like Tap or Trigger Mike or Marcus, where by running into you, now they have a different perspective, and you might be the person or the entity that shifts their lives in a different way. I just don't like the fact that it seems like we have more of the negative aspects of being in a hood that's being pushed and broadcasted, as opposed to you have people like Mike or like Marcus, who are saying, no, I do community service. I do things, in order to help. But we don't see those things being pushed in the media. We see the negative aspect That's being pushed, and people who never grew up in a hood pretend that they're from the hood or about
It's
it,
praise. It's
like they're from the hood.
pedestal. Like this
That
is where you
part,
want to be.
right? That part, I mean, is crazy. And then you have some people who leave the hood, but sometimes the hood doesn't leave them, because the hood isn't only a physical aspect; it's also a mental aspect. So
That's the truth.
yeah, so you leave. Like I remember when we left, and I know this is, we had roaches, we had mice, and there was a certain little thing that we had to do before we went in the kitchen, before we turned on the light, bang on the wall, make sure all the mice scatter somewhere. Right. Well, yeah. Scatter somewhere, and give the roaches time to run. And then when we moved, we no longer had that. But guess what? When we first moved in that house, those same behaviors came with us. It was just natural because we were used to doing it, until we understood that the environment that we were in no longer required it.
So my thing is this: if everybody that's we was talking about this the other day. So when we talked about the talented tenth, right? Not to take it up that the most educationally gifted or athletically gifted or financially gifted disassociate themselves from the group and leave everybody else in disrepair and assimilate to another cultural group. What good does that do us as a people?
I don't think it's assimilation to another cultural group. I think what we're, the biggest part, the mistaken touched into was it's a mentality. And so when you talk about, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 13 laws of the universe, they're all grounded in law of attraction. And so when you talk about elevating your mentality, your thoughts and your feelings are the electromagnetic fields of this entire universe. And so when you start to elevate to different levels and you're thinking differently, you're feeling differently, your observation of your reality is different. You are co-creating for yourself very differently. And so just by the simple law of attraction, you are attracting to you differently, which is why you don't see millionaires and billionaires in the hood. They may send their money that way, they may contribute, they may show up every now and then, but they don't live there. They're not hanging with those people anymore, just for the simple fact that we don't even think the same. I'm making $1 billion and you trying to figure out how to get the next pack of oodles and noodles. We don't even have this. We don't think the same. Our experiences aren't the same. Our friends aren't the same. Our realities are very different. And so you're talking about at some point oil and water. So they just don't mix.
Absolutely. And please be mindful of what I said when I said that you don't owe anything to hood except a good example. What I meant was we have to stop, especially for Black men, we got to stop giving them unfair expectations to live up to. No other man on earth does that. And I've been someone who's lived around different places in the world. Everyone leaves that. They leave the underculture behind. And what they do is create a colony of refinement. Like, this is what is supposed to happen. You're supposed to leave the slums, because I don't know if I told y'all, America doesn't have no hood compared to what's around the world. Y'all don't have no slums compared to what, if your slums got running water, it's not a slum. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Y'all don't have slums compared to what's around the world. When someone makes it out of there, they're pretty much only obligated to bring some of their immediate family out with them, right? And what you do is you create a colony around your progress, around your functionality, to where everybody is just looking like, well, he made it, I can make it too. And if you are so gracious, you show the person from your slum how to do the same thing. That's all you owe them. Because when they see your good example, because that's why I said poor people here are weird. If you were really poor, you would be itching to get out. Y'all not itching to get out. You'd be looking at like, who's going to help me? Look, man, I just need a job. I swear to God, I'll work for free. I'll intern for you. You would see that type of hunger, that type of suffering builds character. Okay, a lot of Black people in the hood aren't suffering enough because they don't want to leave. It hasn't inspired that type of character in them, that dog that we talk about all the time, right? So I believe that if you're going to create a colony, like when you look at it this way, in my section, or I'm sorry, in my community, there is a section with all Middle Eastern people. I asked someone how you buy a whole section. That's exactly what they did. A whole block of homes, like 70 homes. Them, their family, and the people from the inner city of Houston that moved out here. They all take care of each other. They basically got their own pool. That's why I only like going over there. It's just like, am I even invited? It's y'all pool, but it's a community, a community pool and slide, right? So black people can absolutely do that. When I go to Chinatown here in Houston, do you know who polices Chinatown? Even though it's Houston police, only the people of their culture are allowed to police their neighborhood. You can request that from the city. Do black people know that? Wouldn't that help a lot of black people? But we don't care enough. Black people don't care enough. That's why I'm like, come on, this stuff is, you have the example. And if we cared enough and we took the steps to actually do it, you could change a lot. But we always just talking. You know what I'm saying?
Trigger Mike, you from New York, right?
Originally, but I was raised in Virginia.
Would you move to Dumbo?
Now?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Why?
Isn't it? It's gentrified now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's gentrified now.
You know, let me just...
exactly. Anything in Brooklyn. Look. I'm from Ebbsfield, Brooklyn. So that's Bedford Avenue. Bed-Stuy. So anything Brooklyn though is like gentrified. Brooklyn is the new Manhattan. So if it was the hood, it's probably not the hood right now.
So what you're saying is when different people with different money move it to a different area, it changes it?
But it does, though, unfortunately, because when you look at the different areas that are predominantly black, like even here in Atlanta, like unfortunately, the areas that we live in here in the city, we're all black. And when you go to the areas that are still black, the houses are decapitated. People don't keep their houses up. They don't keep their yards up. It's a hot mess. And then when you go to the gentrified areas, it is more diverse. Yes, it is. And it's beautiful. But why should you feel guilty or shame or less than for wanting to live somewhere that's beautiful, or live somewhere that makes you feel good, or live somewhere when you walk outside and you have people walking their dogs, you have shops, you have just an amazing vibe, an amazing experience, something where you go outside and you love it. Why should you feel less than or feel guilty for appreciating that?
So Marcus, let me put this on your brain too. You know, one reason I'll never move, I'll say close to the hood. You know, one reason, property value. Okay. If the issue is that when we see, and I want to make this particular statement, because in the Houston area, Houston is actually the most diverse city in the nation now. It took over from New York like 6 years ago. There's 92 different countries, 192 or something like that, and New York is only 191 countries represented there, right? So that's how diverse this area is. What I love about this city is that if you go to the doctor, you're trying to meet a surgeon for something, you have no idea what race that person is. They might be a black dude, black woman, Indian dude, whatever. So in this area, in this affluent neighborhood, they got $1 million sections up to 5 million, and they got the 100,000s over here. You still don't know who you're going to see. It could be black people in this neighborhood too. And what I like is that I love when black people are seeking refinement, right? For the simple fact that I have no problem moving next to a black person in this neighborhood because he understands property value. I can go knock on his door and say, hey, neighbor, I know your son is at summer camp, but I got people coming to the house. Do you mind cutting your grass? In fact, I can tell my guy to cut your grass. He's not going to get upset. If I do that in the hood, what's going to happen?
My question, that's what this
misconception. Tell your lawnmower guy.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like I feel like a lot of y'all probably watch like Boys in the Hood 10 times or Menace to Society, develop these crazy ass belief systems, and then it's universally applying this. Most of the people in the neighborhoods be good people, bro. Some of them don't make a lot of money, but they be good people. The percentage of the people that really be doing the bullshit is very minute, but they're very visible.
But
he's right. No, I never wanted to put it out there that I'm saying
earlier about creating a neighborhood where he can walk and talk and be with everybody that's on the block. It's possible. You know how I know it's possible? Because I did it. You know how I know it's great? Because I live it. cause me and my wife, and before my two youngest kids was born, we had camped outside of my yard, bro, and no issues. What I'm saying is, y'all are speaking on something and you're demonizing something and have no true understanding of what you're saying. You clearly said earlier, I'm not going back to the hood. I just seek refinement. But you'll move to the neighborhood if it was Dumbo, right? That was the hood. But as soon as the white people come, it's cool, right? I said when the resources come, you still wasn't good at that.
Well, listen.
Mike.
So listen. I understand that your hood may be cool. You lived there. These people know you. It's your hood, but your hood is not the only hood in America. Okay, so maybe if you find a hood that is listen to what I'm saying, because I've seen so many issues. I mean, look at the Takeoff situation, hanging around people that he probably. I mean, this guy had a bright future. All it took is one little incident from somebody who I don't know if you knew him or not, because I don't really know what happened, but now this man has lost his life. You understand? So people are just people just do that because they want to make sure their families are safe. Now, if you know that your neighborhood is safe, then that's fine. But I do know that some of the neighborhoods that I grew up around, I would not want to raise my children there. I just would not.
And I don't think it's reflective of whether or not the community is Black or diversified or not. Like if you go to, where is it? It's College Park in Atlanta. They have literally done some of those areas up so
nice.
And
it's Black people, and it's nice.
They have amazing food, and I literally drive 25 minutes south to go to College Park just to hang out in that area and to go eat in that area, and it's all Black. Now, Candy Burns lives in that area.
It's a nice area.
$30 million net worth. Okay, so I don't think it's about whether or not the community is Black. I love Black people, and I would love to live in a community of my people. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about the race of the people. It's more so the mentality of the people, which is more so reflective of the experience that you are going to have. And so if in your hood you're around, it sounds like you're around a group of people, a community of people that have a better mentality than, I mean, if you can sleep outside in tents in your hood, it sounds like you're in a really great hood, neighborhood, maybe a cul-de-sac. I don't know.
I'm saying the blocks around my stuff is cool, but it's gentrifying right now, and I'm not happy about that. Is what I'm saying. I don't like what y'all are describing is a post-gentrified neighborhood, right? I particularly don't care for that. My thing would be before it gentrify, won't y'all upper echelon, you know what I'm saying?
Marcus, let me ask you this. What is the definition? What is the definition of gentrification?
So
when
go ahead.
When people move into a low income neighborhood or a lower income neighborhood, then they raise the property value through additions to the homes, renovations, and increasing in services for that neighborhood. It also comes with different cultural restaurants and different boutique or type of shops and stuff. So
all of that is just kind of a byproduct. So you kind of hit it on the nail. So specifically, it's when people move, when people come into an area, developers specifically come into an area and develop the area. There would be no reason for gentrification if people maintained their area. So you have to understand that gentrification is based on need. For areas that don't need gentrification, it doesn't happen. You really only see gentrification in these marginalized community areas that I'm not going to say, a lot of them didn't have the resources to maintain it. Some of them did, and it just wasn't prioritized. Nonetheless, there is nothing wrong with gentrification. What's happening right now is that like, for example, if a lot of these developers were Black developers and they were coming in and regentrifying these areas and they were staying Black, you probably wouldn't really care that they were gentrifying the area because the culture of the community is staying the same. What we're seeing right now is a lot of white developers coming into these, predominantly Black areas and taking them over. And now they're becoming white and then raising up the prices to where, our people can't afford it anymore. Yeah. To that to what you're speaking of, yes, is a downfall. But the overall need of gentrification, there wouldn't be a need if the maintenance of the properties were maintained.
So I just wanted to add to
real
that.
Fast, can we do a real quick trigger so we can go on to the next because I think this one kind of went off to the side, so we got to get back onto the. Go ahead.
Oh, real quick. I'm sorry. So there are two things. Gentrification is inevitable. Like, do you not notice that the only places that they gentrify are the primest real estate in the city? You can't have the hood in the center of prime real estate. If you don't buy something there, you can't take advantage. So instead of trying to stop gentrification, you need to be owning more property. Therefore, you can benefit.
I agree
from it. So
that's my whole point.
Yeah, it's inevitable, right? But and the other thing, Marcus, is where everybody, NFL athletes in general, they leave the hood simply because everyone wants to change their class group. We don't really have a race problem in the world. We have a class issue. I am upgrading my class. That's why I went to college. This is why I work so hard. The better schools are where I'm at. Black people can move into my neighborhood. It could be all Black. I would not care because as long as we are in the same class group, right? If they made my fine ass neighborhood with all these bomb ass schools and made it Section 8, I'm blowing the shit up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm blowing it up. You see what I'm saying? Because those people did not earn this. They don't have the habits to uphold this. They won't cut their grass. They'll bring my property value down. They'll be doing stuff they do in the hood on the corners here. It doesn't belong here because I upgraded my class, and I'm never going to apologize for it.
Most of the people that don't take care of the spaces they in, those usually are renter homes.
That's what he's saying. You should own the property.
Own it, but he's saying the people.
No, they're not always renters' homes. When you look at some, no, not most of them are. You also have to look at a lot of these houses, like in the city of Atlanta. A lot of these houses are abandoned houses. They were owned by Black people or they're owned by elderly people. There can be multiple reasons why people have not continued the upkeep of their property.
It can be multiple reasons. I agree with that point. Yeah. But in Chicago. So I did real estate for a very long time. I used to take buildings over. All right.
Oh no, go ahead. You can.
No, you can go ahead to the next point because I'm.
I just wanted to because we kind of went off and that was a good conversation, so I didn't want to stop it. But I really wanted to focus on the fascination that we have. It's great that you guys are in your neighborhoods and you're building them up. But my thing is the mentality, the fascination that we have with this. I was looking at The Best Man. If you guys haven't seen it, you got to see it, okay? But we all know what The Best Man is.
Why did they put it on Peacock, though?
And Peacock is free, right?
Yeah.
It's not free. It's $4. It's not expensive. Okay, so listen, it's $4 freaking dollars. But anyway, it's on. If you haven't seen it, it's great. But it just reminds me of great relationship, a friendship, a bond, and Black people just doing well for themselves. And I'm like, why don't we gravitate towards that? Why are we gravitating towards minister society? Like what is it that makes you want to be like that instead of like that? It's like, is it just something programmed in us? We just like that. What's that question? I know that question was kind of
okay. So I get the question you're asking. This is why. Unfortunately, all of us, I think I've seen everybody on this panel, on some other Lapeef panel or some out in the manosphere talking about what Black people need to do and the advancements we need to make. Because we all care. That is unequivocally true. We all care enough. But the elephant in the room and what we're afraid to admit is that it's actually too late and we need to throw this generation away. The reason why we need to do it, and maybe the whole generation, the whole generation away. The reason why people don't want to model themselves after those positive relationships, right, is because they didn't see it growing up. Their entire mentality is tainted. Too many of them, rather.
Where would they see it at, Trigger Mike?
That's what I'm saying. They didn't see it growing up, and now they're too deep into this culture of toxicity. right? It's where they get every high, every vice that they have comes from the culture of toxicity, not the culture of normalcy, not the culture of family, right? So that's why I'm like, it's at this point, it's beyond saving, because what needs to actually happen is there needs to be so much failure. I'm not an agent of chaos. I promise. There needs to be so much failure and so much suffering that people run back to the family structure.
More?
So
It
my
hasn't.
my
Do
thing
you
is
see
this.
the way our women are behaving? It hasn't hit fever pitch yet.
Well, see, I think you guys are making a point based on a minority subgroup. I think a lot of times what we're talking about, like you have the silent, majority or whatever. We have a subgroup that is being, I'll say, exploited, and that's what we see on social media.
Somebody
But
gave them a
uh,
camera, honey.
yeah,
They
but
using it.
on our day-to-day lives, they don't necessarily, well, I'll say at least in my experience, they don't necessarily represent the majority of people I've been around, even when it comes to relationships. I was telling Shan a few days ago about how being like during this break, being around family, friends, just it just re-energized me on Black love in general, because it was different generations. So there was a 16-year-old there with his girlfriend, and just seeing that young love. And then, you had 20-year-olds one being my son, who's married, and seeing that generation, and then us in the generation of our 40s of being married, and just seeing all of these various families of groups of people who are married or in relationships, and seeing how they treat each other. So it's not that those relationships don't exist. It's just, again, it's not promoted in the media. We focus on, girl, do your thing. Oh, let's go passport bros, find your girls somewhere else. Like, we're promoting anti-family on both ends, and you
So,
can't do that.
so I got
You
some
have
pick.
to surround yourself around the things that you want to see.
I got some pushback mistaken because you're doing what my wife does, right? We are a part of a national organization of exceptional Black mothers and professionals, right? Or my wife is rather, or our family is rather. And because she knows so many of those women, and she sees them and she's around them, in my wife's view, Black women are phenomenal, all professional, six-figure earners and great mothers because she's a part of that group, and they all happen to know each other, right? So that's the way she thinks.
Because that's your
But
surrounding.
women tend to generalize in individual circumstances and in small groups. Men tend to generalize in the big picture group, right? So that's what I believe, like, definitely not trying to sound condescending. You just gave us a picture of your group, the people you know, because
Correct.
of exactly that's not what's going on in the world. Have you
Let me,
heard the statistic
oh,
that 1 in 4 Black women are married?
No,
Well,
I'm sorry.
let me give you the actual
52%,
exactly.
52% of Black women, 48% of Black men.
Yeah, so that
But
stat
that
doesn't
number
account for the
changes the
number.
older the woman
I
gets.
was gonna
So
say
that's the other thing.
the when under 50, 1 in 9
Mm.
Black women are married. So how on earth could we say we don't have a families issue when 1 in 9 under 50 aren't married? You see what I'm saying? So outside of your group, this is a huge issue and it
I
can't
agree.
be denied.
No, I agree. What I'm saying is the promotion of it. We promote more so the single-mindedness, the single mother, the baby daddy, that culture. I'm not saying that it doesn't
Normalize it.
exist, right? We've gotten to a place where we normalize it, as opposed to going back to a situation where we normalize family and marriage. Like the whole, even a marriage, oh, it doesn't benefit a man to get married. Oh, let's go, those kind of things. Those are the things that we reinforce, and we create a culture of hookups. We create a culture of, extended long-term relationships. We create that culture and then get mad at the men and women that participate in it, but yet we keep perpetuating it, saying, no, it's women's fault. They keep having babies. No, it's men's fault. They ain't wrapping it up. but none of the behavior is changing to combat all of the stuff that we say that we need to promote.
Like marriage. We don't promote
Exactly.
marriage.
Do y'all think that people should get their examples from entertainment, TV, and media?
Absolutely
That's
not.
what they should.
I
So
think that it would be great. Let me just tell you this.
There's
We're
a
going to go to
responsibility, though.
yeah,
Too.
yeah, yeah.
It
So
should
I
be
think
a sense of responsibility.
who should
absolutely.
they get the examples from then?
Well, the thing is that the majority of people end up getting their, your values are instilled, your experiences are instilled well before you really have access to social media. So once you get to a point to where you really end up having like full access to social media, a lot of your worldview has already been instilled from what you have immediate access to, which is in your household. And so, this is what we're seeing right now is a byproduct of what the majority of the collective had, were exposed to. So.
And I know people who didn't grow up like I understand that I come from an advantaged situation in the sense that I grew up with having both parents in the household, both parents working. And I know that it has been a privilege because that, like you said, based on the stats, that's not most people's situation, this day and age. However, I have also seen situations that I guess some of the men are in where they did grow up in single family households, but yet created a new narrative for their families because they didn't want to repeat the cycle. So I think we need more of that, and hearing from men and women who were in those situations that grew up like that what in them did they do to make sure that they don't pass on that same mindset or the same behavior for the generation that they're creating. Those are the things that we really need to focus on, as opposed to making up, focusing on the fact that the stats say that this is what it is. I think I would rather focus on the solution about looking at, people who were brought up in single family households, but created a whole different dynamic when they began to have families.
So let me ask you a question. Now that we know, and you can answer this too, AP. Now that we know, because what goes on in this space is, like Mistaken stated, marriage is not beneficial for men. So at this point, we have a dilemma. Unless a law changes, the dilemma is going to be either men don't marry and could we continue to make single parent households because they ain't stopping bugging, or or we go back to, hey, marriage is most important. You have to put your family first. Yeah, it's a bummer if it doesn't work out, but it's your family. These are your kids, and kids do better in two-parent households. So now we have a dilemma. So which one do we promote?
What was the first one?
The first one, so it's between, what I'm hearing a lot of is, marriage is not beneficial for men. That's what's being promoted on the airways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what. So if you keep pushing that narrative, what's going to end up happening is there are going to be more single family homes because they don't want marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
But the alternative is, okay, look, I know as a man I may get hit in some type of way, but at the end of the day, my kids cannot live without their father being like, I don't want my kids to grow up or being born out of wedlock. I want my kids to be in a two-parent household because they do better educationally, all of these things when two parents are in a household. So now there's a dilemma. Which one do we promote? Because right now it seems that we're promoting, marriage is just not beneficial for me.
Cohabitation.
I'm gonna have a
cohabitation.
So I don't subscribe to that. I simply that's ridiculous.
Well, we know
me.
you don't. We're not talking about people on this panel. We're just saying this is what it's being. I hear it all the time.
But I'm gonna answer that and what I was going to say the same exact way. Joe. If you want to know who Joe was the father of 3 boys who stayed with their mom. They weren't married at the time, and I didn't know that until later in life. But they weren't who stayed with their mom to raise the boys. And this was in the projects that I grew up in, and it was the only example that I had for many years. But Joe every day would leave the house at 6:15 in the morning. Every day. And he would come home every evening, if memory serves, it was like 5:30. Those three boys never wanted for anything, and they seemed happy. It wasn't that I was unhappy, but they just seemed happy, and I don't know how to. There's no other way for me to describe it except for that they seemed happy. While I was growing up, that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be Joe. I wanted to always be there, be available, be present, be active, participate in the lives of my kids. It is very difficult to do that in a severed home. It is very, very difficult to do that in a severed home, which is why I don't subscribe to not getting not a wife is pointless or whatever they're saying these days. Not only is a wife critical for raising kids, she also adds to your life span. She makes sure that you have the emotional stability that you need to help reduce stress in your life. Now, if she's following your plan, like as a man, you need to have a plan. If she's following your plan, your stresses, that means she's taking care of everything that you don't have time yourself to take care of. So when you tackle all of that and kids have two parents in the home, it's not only a win for a man, it's a win for the woman who remains in her femininity, and it's a win for the kids. Period.
Absolutely.
But Joe was my example, and that's how I've tried to live to raise my two the way that they need to be raised.
To piggyback off that, right? Because I understood what you were saying with that story. What I was taking from it was, like, we talk about how much representation matters. It seemed like it was impossible for it to be a black president, no matter how we feel before Obama came. But after that, it spawned a new delineation of thought processes and possibilities amongst the youth that was growing up after that happened, right? Joe represented a family structure that you would not have seen in that vicinity had you not had Joe. What I'm saying is, if you remove Joe, maybe the AP isn't the AP. What I'm saying is, if you remove the examples of something that people could strive for, maybe the other people who needed that example to understand that it was possible, they won't have it. We have to see it from somewhere. Like, even when we was talking about media earlier, when Different World and the Cosby Show was on TV, I think black HBCU had historic rates of people going into it. They removed those things off TV. It's no longer on TV, and people kind of. I'm sorry, y'all hear like a feedback or something?
I hear it.
I hear it also.
Let me mute and see if it's me.
All right, so the AP, I definitely agree with what you said, 1000%. All right, it's families for the win. Families will never go out of style. First off, because I don't know what foolishness I'm hearing out in the community today, where families aren't what they used to be. Marriage sucks. These people aren't going to be singing this tune in 10 years. Okay. Hold on real quick. I'm sorry.
Well, one of the things that I was going to say though too is in regards to like the like men fear. I'll say YouTube streets. I can't necessarily say my experience because, like you said, I might be in a minority, group of people that I surround myself with. But is that we hear so much about why a man shouldn't get married. The laws, are against men if they get married, things like that. But the flip side to that is that we also are not educating men if the fear of marriage is because of what could potentially happen at the dissolvement of a marriage, then I think the talking point should be how to protect yourself prior to marriage so you can reduce the fear of marriage and then build on family, which is the ultimate goal. A lot of times we just say, oh, if I was a man, don't get married. You're going to end up getting a divorce. Woman going to leave you. They're going to take the kids. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. Go find, fly somewhere else where other women value family, blah, blah. We're saying all of these things, but we're not providing men with the necessary tools in order to ensure that they reduce their chances of divorce. So, like, if you have a prenup, or all of those things, or even if you do a postnup, whatever, there are some things that are in place that can minimize the risk that we should be talking about so more people will get married, like doing premarital counseling, or some people do a few weeks ahead of time. I disagree with that. I don't think you should just do a few courses before you get married. You know what I'm saying? I think that there should be a long term through your whole engagement. Typically an engagement is for a year. During that time, go to counseling ahead of time to address some issues that you may not even know to think about because you've never been married. It's just a lot of things that I think are available to mitigate some of the fear that men have when it is around marriage and child custody, all of those things. So, because the results show that marriage is a benefit for everyone if it's done right.
Especially the children.
Right.
Yeah, no, so I will always say to singles, I give no smoke to singles for being single. It's when children are involved that you need to start putting childish things away and learn how to come together and, be a family. But if we're being real, the reason I said throw the generation away is because mistaken. I used to think it's hard to talk to 30 somethings, even the 20 somethings now won't change their behaviors. Practice makes habit. So when you look at what they're practicing now, I'm not going to bet that they're going to make these serious life altering changes into their 30s. That's why I say throw the generation away completely. As far as men go, y'all do know that the middle class is about to be eviscerated. All right. So automation is going to eviscerate the middle class. That's why I said families for the win. We are going through a period of what's called ethnic switching in this country. Mexicans and South Americans in 20 years will be the majority because of the rate that black men and women date out and have children out, not even date out, have children out. In 50 years, only person that looks like me, AP, and Sir Hale will be a full-blooded African person. He's going to have a accent like my daddy. Like, you see what I'm saying? The only black person that look like us is going to have that accent. That's because I don't believe we can actually get it together in time. We're going to see something that looks like survival mode. Once that middle class gets eviscerated that way, and women realize that they don't have the capacity for work to take care of themselves for their entire life, because let's be honest, that's what marriage is for. That's what submission is for. If you had the foresight to think, I say this all the time. Y'all know the average career span of a corporate female lawyer is 5 years, even though she went to school for 8 and clerked for 2. Right? So she wasn't thinking that maybe I won't want to work after I have children. Maybe I'll want to scale back when my husband reaches his financial peak. Maybe I want to do other things, start home programs or start a boutique from home and change my career. Women aren't forward thinking enough to say that's what a husband is for, and I should dedicate my time and energy into that institution because it's for my relief, meaning a woman. right? So because of that, women are going to suffer and be looking for struggle situations.
But
And that's why I believe, yeah, but
I find that a lot of women that I come across, they find a mate, they love the mate, they stick in there with the mate, and the mate is just not ready. So what about those women who want a mate? They want to be married,
Especially
but
if you're
they're
telling
find
them
themselves
to
in
marry
long-term
younger.
relationships.
absolutely. So
Can I jump in there after a trigger mic as well?
yeah, so
Sure.
this is the craziest thing. We've talked about the fatherlessness culture and men primarily not knowing what marriage looks like. So it's like, why would they even want to jump into that institution? Because, but the other part of it is that men, we have gone through this before all over the world. People's fathers have died in war. People's fathers have died before they were born, and men essentially found out that they should pair off with women because it's the natural thing to do. So there is some deep-seated issue if the men in your ethnic group turn on you and don't want to marry. And there's a bunch of crises we could name. There's a worth problem, right? There's a submission problem. To me, there is a mindset issue, right? So when we talk about men don't have a proclivity to get married or that urge or sensation, it's because it's not being inspired in them. Everything that they can get as a boyfriend, you see what I'm saying? Or they can get everything as a boyfriend.
No,
They
I
can
get it.
get the milk without buying the cow. So why should
I
I
agree.
agree with that. All right, so we have to. I'm going to let Sir Hale speak his piece because welcome to the panel, and then we have to go to a video so we can go to the next topic because we've been, lollygagging.
All right, good to see Shantae. Good to see Miss Taken. To Mita, La, Trigger Mike, Marcus Weiss, and AP. Salute to JR and the chat. What's up, everybody? So this is very simple. This is very simple. The issue we're seeing here is that is plain. Women today are selfish. Women want what they want, and they're married to their desires. They're married to their happiness. It is a woman's job to inspire a man to want to marry her, not the other way around. I think we romanticize this idea that a man should do the courting, be chivalrous, make her want to marry him. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Men who have a purpose, who have a mission in life, they're focused on something. It's the woman's job to come into his life and to prove her worth and the benefit she is to that man. And when she inspires him in that way to show him that she's an asset to his life, then that's when marriage comes in. I think we've forgotten that though, because we overvalue. I want to say this in the most appropriate, the most graphically appropriate way, but we've glorified the coochie so much where we think that that's the main thing, and there's much more that a successful man actually needs. So men didn't mess this up. This is on women. If women want marriage, they're going to have to stop being selfish and stop putting their happiness and their feelings ahead of the family. And I think then and only then will marriage be inspired, because a man will give a woman what she wants if he deems it worthy. But once selfishness gets in there, is no benefit to a man, especially a man of purpose.
Do you think it's just a woman's happiness, or also men's ego as well? Because a lot of times I do hear like when men talk about how they do lead, and they may have conversations with their wife when they're making decisions, things like that are inclusive in wanting to get input from their wife, that they're getting called a simp, or that they're not a leader, because you should never ask your wife for advice or input when you're making a decision, things like that. And again, this may not be the vast majority, but this is what I'm hearing in being in this space, in the YouTube space, about what leadership look like for a man, and that women are just supposed to submit, even when we know that vast majority of Black men have not even had an example of what male leadership looked like in the husband role, because they grew up in women-led households. So I think that's part of the issue too. Women definitely have work, because again, they grew up in single-led households, and not necessarily have seen their moms interact with a man that in a lead, a man that's in a leadership role as well. So I think there's room to say that both need to have some work, but what I hear is that a lot of men are saying if women just made these changes, if they didn't have attitude, if they just submit, then everything will be all right. But they haven't gotten any direction of what that leadership should look like when they take on a wife. So how do we combat that part?
You know what's funny about the whole leadership conversation is women. So women are saying that they want a leader, and most of them have never been with one. They've never seen it. So if a man is an actual leader, she has nothing to go off of. Typically, when I hear women say they want a leader, what she's saying is she wants a man to do what she thinks a leader should do. And the problem with leadership is not predicated on what you think a man should do or what you think he should be. To be quite honest, a lot of times leaders have to make decisions that you don't agree with or that you don't like. And there is no perfect blueprint for a man to see and say, now I got it. I got the blueprint. You become that by trial and experiences, by failing. And what examples do is help you to expedite that process and to avoid pitfalls. But it's important for everybody to understand that leaders, you don't see somebody and then you become it. You have to live and get your own experience. And that's how you become a leader. Too many women keep saying that they want a leader and they have no idea how to relate with one. And a lot of them don't even know how to see one when they have it. And so I want women to stop saying what kind of leader they want their man to be and just be a wife. And you'll be amazed at what you inspire in him by just being a good wife.
I think to mistaken your point, what you're saying is when you look at a man and his leadership, there should be evidence of his capacity to lead. And that is what, as women, we would submit to, because at the end of the day, I trust your leadership because you have a track record of being able to lead. And so I think the key is, not submitting and, submitting to men that don't have that, because at the end of the day, there's not going to be that cohesiveness. She's not going to want to submit or, choosing a man that doesn't have that capacity.
Absolutely.
So can we dig into this? So top 3 things a leader does.
For the ladies?
Yep, for the ladies.
I'll speak. I didn't want to because I know I usually talk a lot. Sorry. Go ahead, Della.
Well, I was just saying, for the first thing that came to my mind is the capacity to make decisions. Like, a leader is someone that can make a decision.
Mm-hmm. I would also say that a leader also has a plan and is able to articulate that plan to others who need to help support that plan.
And for me, I think that it's important to understand that leadership in the workplace is totally different from leadership in the home. Because you can be a great businessman, but you can be a sucky husband. So they don't go hand in hand.
Most great businessmen are sucky husbands.
That's a fact.
So for me, it's just protected. I mean, lead our family in the right direction, inspire our kids, be a great example for our kids. That's the big one for me.
And I would say
lead by example.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Yes. If you want peace, I think you have to exhibit what peace looks like. If you want respect, you have to exhibit what respect looks like. So I think as a leader, you are going to lead by example so everyone can follow.
Sir Harold, before you go, I just want to say that y'all realize that y'all outlined pretty much the basic premise of having common decency. Right? Like this is to show that men really, as long as you have respect and common decency, you should be eligible for a woman, right? Because it goes in, like, people always want to say what a good man is. I've summarized it to say a good man is just a man who solves more problems than he causes. And that should make you eligible for a woman, right? His propensity or proclivity to lead in another group of men has really no bearing on his ability to lead his own home with his wife and children. Those two things are completely different. He can go home. He can, yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, just real quick, because I think that there's a piece that's kind of missing with what Sir Hale said, and I agree with 99% of what you said, by the way. We as men, we waste too much time wasting time with the wrong females. Also, I believe that we as men need not give our attention to females that aren't worthy of our time, or are unwilling to submit to our plan. The reason that women can, in my opinion, can act in chaos is because we allow them the space to act in chaos. If we didn't, and if we didn't give women who weren't worthy our attention, they would fall to the wayside, and all the marriageable women that are wives would be more in plentiful, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that every time you guys are online and you're subscribing or you following this chick that you like, she's got everything that you don't want, but you're sitting here following her, giving her these props, and you mean indirectly, that's your vote for her. Like, if you don't want it to happen, what you have to do is stop supporting it. Just like we're talking about the black stuff, like the whole banging in Alaska, you have to not support the behavior that you don't want to continue, because if you support it, it's going to continue. So if you want women to change, start praising the women that you see are moving in your direction. If you want natural hair, start liking those girls. Those girls have very little likes, but y'all got all the likes to the superficial stuff. Stop doing that. Well, give the praise to the people, and then listen. Yes, you do.
Praise, time, and attention.
Listen, the girl who's walking around modest, looking modest, who that plain Jane, that look that you guys want, start praising that. Give her the likes. I think somebody said on an earlier channel, they were like, well, you can tell the difference in the likes. She has on an outfit, she may have small likes because she's suited up, but then when she has a sexy picture out, she's got all these likes. It's not you, it's the sex. Well, guess what? She don't know the difference. She just knows that you like that picture. So it's gonna make that behavior continue to go. So guess what? Don't like that picture, like the other picture, because it encouraged that behavior. Does that make sense?
Essentially, what you're asking men to do is go against their nature, which will never happen. Okay.
So you guys hold on. Emotional.
I gotta finish.
Hypergamy, going against nature.
I'm gonna tell you right now, as somebody who is married.
Okay.
The woman I'm liking on Instagram is never getting a ring from me. So it doesn't matter. A like is free. A like is harmless. My wife will look at that picture like, damn, that ass fat. Like that picture. But she's never getting a ring from me. I can
look at it without liking.
I can compartmentalize my thinking to say. So it's funny because this is really the ultimate point. When you say men should stop doing blank, do you realize that there are no more group of uneligible men by percentage than there have ever been in the history? There's always been a group of men women were not supposed to fraternize with. They were not supposed to give their body to. You weren't supposed to, just be around these men at all. But they choose to for attention's sake. Attention is their vice. Attention is their drug. Do you have to go tell this to an upstanding man who's out there busting his tail, working construction or doing anything, taking care of his house, paying his mortgage? You don't ever have to tell those groups of men what you just said. We look for wives. It's the way we're designed. We need somebody to manage us while we're out here managing the world. So you're talking to the dusties. That's why I'm just sitting here like that's generally what women on YouTube do. You talk to men who never had to be talked to in the first place, that women aren't supposed to be fraternizing with in the first place.
Well, I have a question. Let me ask you a question real fast because I wanted, because it's part of that question. So why do you have to like the picture? You can't just look without liking. What satisfaction are you getting from liking the picture?
And before you answer that, what is the definition of a simp? Isn't that giving a woman something without getting something in return?
No.
No,
it is a simp.
No.
Well, guys, this is cap. This is ridiculous. If a man likes a picture, he likes a picture. Why are we like? Why are we trying to control what people?
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
So here go the thing. if you incentivize the likes, right?
That's
you
what
allow
that's what
to get
she. I don't
money.
think.
So here's the weird thing. Here's the
Hold on. I don't
Can I
think
make this?
she
Can I say
meant
something?
if a man likes a picture. She doesn't mean if you physically like a picture, like, oh, that's a baddie. I don't think she has. That's not what she's talking about. She's talking about if you physically take the time to press the like button to give her that feedback that you like the picture. That's what
You
she's
can
talking
look
Which
about.
can
beautiful,
result in
but
her
why?
getting
What
money along the
satisfaction
line
are you
somewhere.
getting out of actually liking the picture?
So
Because
here's
that's
the
your
funny.
vote.
Here's the funny part.
I think what they're mainly saying, because like if I'm not mistaken, Trigger Mike, you said just a moment ago that you are your habits, but then you just turned around and said that you can compartmentalize your thoughts. But in all actuality, if what you're doing is habitual, you're not going to be able to compartmentalize those thoughts when they're habits. They just become habits. And so the
what I mean
habit
by
of engaging with these Instagram women and engaging with these
y'all gaslit. Hold on, y'all gaslit this
I
whole
know,
topic.
but I'm just saying, I believe
Thoughts?
this is where
Hold
this
on.
was the interpretation.
Yeah, I can respond. The difference is because you just said it: thoughts versus behaviors. I said I can
behaviors
like
are your
the
thoughts.
woman
Your
on
behaviors
Instagram's
are
picture,
reflective
but
of
I'm
your
marrying the girl with no Instagram. So
Your behaviors
that is
are
what my
reflective of
habits
your
show.
thoughts.
Now here's the funny
it's
thing.
kind of
Wait,
like
I
this.
guess
here's the funny thing. Hold on, let me just say this, Nancy. Let me say this, Shan.
Okay.
So the funny thing about it is you're saying don't like the picture for some reason. That's one part of social media. So you're saying like the food that looks nasty over the food that looks banging. You're telling us to stop literally human behavior, because if we have to stop doing things and start giving affirmation for things we like and that are appealing to us just because it's detrimental to whatever your agenda is here, that's going against human behavior.
But you're also pushing your own narrative and agenda here. So at some point, I think what the ladies are saying is that there's accountability on both parts. You don't want it out there, but yet you continue to engage it. And so at some point, there has to be some form. I'm not saying that, all of the eggs are in the basket where men, you just need to do this. I definitely understand that, as a collective with women, we definitely have to move differently in order to receive differently. So do men is the point, that this isn't just one-sided. And so I think we're both on the same page that the roles are different and that innately we are
men
different.
liking. So if I'm to be correct, and please understand that was all a characterization. I don't do that. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about as a single man. But am I to be correct that men liking pictures is responsible for what? Women not getting married?
It just reinforces the behavior. The more likes you get, it's like behavior training, so to speak.
And if you
The
are a
more
woman,
likes you get,
if you are a woman looking to start a family, be married, and ultimately
I'm
do
not
your
understanding
duty
how we're not
to the
getting this
community,
concept.
what does men liking pictures or even people with that propensity to do that have to do with your overall happiness?
it's not you. What we're talking about is if you are saying as a man, you don't like the behavior of women twerking or showing their ass and doing all of these things, but then you turn around and like those same pictures, you're promoting and reinforcing that behavior for the female that is actually doing it, because she's doing it for the likes. So the
incorrect.
He's doing it for the likes. We're telling you women are doing it for the likes.
Because the women, like I said, the women that will get the ring, the women serious men
we understand
are looking for, we're not reinforcing that. I'm sorry, they're not participating in that behavior. Completely different worlds we're talking about.
Yes, but I guess the point that they're making is that it's not being brought to the forefront that, hey, this is actually what we like. So there's obviously a difference between the women that men bring home versus, and bring around their families versus the women that men would want to sleep with, or like the Instagram models, or to just have the experience for the night, or liking the picture. We get that. I guess the whole point of it is like, just, I guess, show equal appreciation for the modesty, equal appreciation for the women that you know, are reflective of an ideal wife.
But how are we assuming that men aren't doing that though? That's what I'm trying to get to.
This is a whole
stated-
assumption.
Well, he brought up the
stated-
whole like comment on the picture, so that's why I feel
brought
like
it
this
up.
whole topic is like ridiculous. It's not
So-
realistic, but it's like he brought up the comment about the, you know, I'm gonna like the incident. So I think that's where
I want to make this distinction, and I just waited patiently to say this. When I asked about what leadership is, it was like pulling teeth to get one specific thing. When it came to, I just want to finish.
Okay.
Now, when it came to what men are doing wrong, we can talk about this for hours. This is the problem that I see. Most of our women have no idea and can't readily articulate what a leader is. They can, however, readily articulate what they think leaders are doing wrong and what men should do. I wanted to make that point because this is what we see all too often in these conversations, where women don't know what a leader is. And that's why I don't buy the argument that you want one. You have no idea what a leader actually is. And I wanted to make that point clear. I wanted to make that point clear because this is how we deviate.
I think it's funny that that's your perspective, because within the first 2-3 seconds of you asking the question, I answered the question, then Mistaken answered the question.
Right, and we paused because we didn't want to talk over each other.
Right. So
let me just say this. I can tell you something
is
else.
valid for you.
Let me tell you something else that I think a leader is. He takes accountability. He's accountable for the things that he does. So right now I heard dodging accountability. So if you don't want, I mean, it's no different from a television show. If you don't want it to air, you don't view it, because guess what? It's going to keep on airing because you're giving your vote by viewing.
That would mean
I gotta burst your bubbles. I gotta burst your bubbles. Men are gonna like what they're gonna like, and it doesn't matter what you think about.
We're just trying to come up with a solution, and if you don't want to fix a solution, that's fine.
But it's not a problem. A man liking what he's liking is not a problem.
Listen, what we're saying is we're not trying to change your mind in liking that, because you're saying you don't like it, which is the whole point. You're saying, oh, we don't like when you wear this. Okay, so if you're going to, it's okay in your mind. If you like sexual beings, look at it without tapping the heart button where you're getting your vote.
Women do not get to dictate what men do. I'll say it like this.
Obviously.
Let me say this. If women don't want their men watching women twerk, make sure you have a pole in your house and you twerking for your man. If you don't want your man liking those Instagram
we
pictures,
know that's not going to stop a man from watching other women twerk.
They
Stop.
knees bad. They knees already bad.
I can't even finish a sentence. I'm telling you what keeps men. When you captivate your man's attention, I'm telling you, it means something to him. A lot of men, unless he's just out there and crazy, he's going to get something that appeals to his eye, because oftentimes our wives get comfortable. They don't take pride in how they look. They sit on the couch watching every show. They're eating snacks all the time. They're not working out. They lose that sexiness that that man's attracted to. And him liking a picture doesn't mean that he's unfaithful or that he doesn't even love you. Is that it is a man's nature to respond to femininity and to beauty. And when he's responding to that, and we're not saying that it's a right or wrong thing. This is just male nature. And a lot of times when women are not as focused on themselves being the best version of themselves, going to the gym, being fit, feminine, being presentable, they try to control what a man likes instead of trying to be what your man likes. And I think that if you focus on more on that, we don't have to worry about IG, because it means literally nothing.
Let me say this, because you just said what women need to control. So we're just giving you, you don't have to do any of the things we're telling you. We're just saying it will be helpful if that's really a concern of yours, that women are doing these things. We're just giving you a solution to a way to get rid of it. The best possible way is don't condone it. Don't give your vote for it. You don't have to take the advice. We're just putting it out there. That is a way. Now, if you want to push back and like it, knock yourself out. We cannot control your finger. But we're just telling you that if a girl is not getting a like, if you're not liking that picture, she's not going to. Some people even erase pictures they don't get likes from. I've seen people, if they got low likes on it, they take it off of their timeline altogether. I've seen that.
And I think furthermore, it's not just about the likes on social media, and it's not just about women, it's men alike. It's about behaviors. And so when we're talking about the deprioritization of family, these are behaviors, patterns of behaviors, and the deprioritization of family is ultimately a byproduct of these kinds of behaviors of the collectives. And so when we're talking about, oh, family is where it's at. Okay, well then let's prioritize experiences and behaviors that are reflective of the fact that families are a priority. And obviously that looks different for both men and women because we're different by nature. At the end of the day, if we're talking about prioritization of family, then let's engage in those kinds of experiences.
I mean, how do y'all expect us? Because we sat here and let y'all gaslight that. We even let y'all say it. But what y'all are doing is trying to put men through a moral purity test when y'all actually fail the test worse.
It was
than men
just
do.
a solution, sir.
Well,
We
what
don't
I'm
have to-
saying is, on the women's end, y'all reinforce more bad behavior
How?
than men do. Wait, well, hold on. You reinforce more hot girl summers than men do. Men are married. Black men are married more than black women in this country. There are almost
I thought
They're married to black women.
There are more black. I'm sorry. There are almost 1 million black children in America that don't on their birth certificate have a black dad, but yet you make the narrative about interracial dating about men. Women reinforce that y'all fail this test worse than men do.
I don't know what he's talking
Yes.
I disagree.
But want to put us through a moral purity test?
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about something that happened on another channel or something?
Your perspective is definitely valid for you, but nobody's putting you through a moral purity test. I'm not really sure why you feel that way. We can talk about it.
Well, y'all are saying the equivalent
Come
of a
to
like.
us. Tell us what your
It's
problem
saying
is.
the equivalent of a like on Instagram, a harmless 2 taps of a finger, is saying that we have no moral compass, and the community would be better if we
say that. We just said you want to get rid of it, stop liking it, stop encouraging it. Marcus, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess the answer is no.
Really
That
wasn't the implication at all. So I'm sorry you took it that way.
I think this might have got lost in translation because I heard what they was trying to say. It was, if you got a job and you work someplace and they tell you to get there on time, but they only give raises and promotions to people who get there 2 hours late, why would you continue to get there on time? Because you're promoting something. It's not justifying or rationalizing your morality and none of that stuff. It's saying we are promoting something, and instead of us liking them and giving those girls more love in the algorithm, more chance to get money, look at them, do what you're gonna do, appreciate the picture, but don't promote it. Was the point?
Yeah, and what we're saying is they gaslit it because they're assuming men don't already do that when black men are married, I believe, at what, twice the rate or something?
No, sir, it's not even close. But let me just say
that's
this.
in regards to marriage. But what you like, even anybody who's in the YouTube space know when you put certain thumbnails up, right? There's certain thumbnails that's gonna get you clicks and views, and you cater your thumbnails to that whole algorithm. It's the same with the show titles. It's the same with all of these different things.
That's actually a really good point, Marcus. That's a good point.
Listen, I just made a point where you can go on. Listen, let me give me a second. I can just made a point when I brought that up. I made a point because we have brought this up on another show that you have. I think it was Heap was on this show. I think he's in the chat. If you have one picture up and you're fully dressed, let's see which picture gets the most likes. And then it's side by side, the same chick, but she has a more provocative post. She has way more likes. And they were like, well, you choose the post that got the look because that's your real you. It's only because you were being
here's where we're at an impasse. Y'all believe that this is changeable behavior, and we're telling you it's human nature. You use the word algorithm, Marcus, which is a predictor for human behavior. That is never going to change. It's your nature to say, but like you don't even have to be looking at the screen for you to be enticed by it and give it a like. You're saying that men just need to do this and change their behavior and reinforce this behavior more. Yeah, we're going to actually go date that woman. We're going to show you our habits by being true to the woman who has her clothes on, regardless of if we're liking it or not. But human behavior.
But the other point, though, is we're assuming that women aren't liking this as well. In these posts, it'd be like, women, go get it, sis. Body goes, girl, you go work it, girl. That's what I'm saying. We just putting this on guys, and women are the biggest consumers of social media. You know what I'm saying? That's what the argument is slanted.
I have a
Would you-
question, if you don't mind. Trigger
Can I
Mike.
say one thing, Della? After Della
feel like-
finishes, we're gonna read the super chats. Go ahead.
Okay, because I feel like it got off on a tangent before you even kind of finished your thought with the whole you like the photo. Do you remember what you were talking about with that? Because I feel like you were going somewhere and then it just kind of went off about you liking a photo. I don't know if you
remember at this point.
Okay.
I don't remember.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and read the super chat. All right. I wish Julius Germain for 99. Thank you. I wish that audio would have leaked 2 years ago. Black Lexicon, $10. Thank you. We patient love. It's about dang time. LOL. Good evening. A salute. Sugar Bum. He's lying. I guess this is still Tory Lanez, right? And Meg Thee Stallion. All right. The Crown Prince.
Oh no, that wasn't. But this was a good comment. That's why I wanted to. This was from the past, though. But go ahead, you can read it.
Okay. Black Americans have more of an allegiance to poorer blacks. Foreigners tend to bring elite tribalism with them to America. EKECA, $6.99. The single mother rate, marriage rate, reading level rate, wealth rate among blacks, etc., will tell you otherwise. Mistaken. I don't know exactly which point. Maurice MX, $25. Solution: American and foreign divorce rate is 12%. Ray Alexander, 5. Hey, Ray. Marriage disproportionately benefits men. 70% of married black men are in the middle class compared to only 20% of never married black men.
What?
Family Studies. You got the quote. Fatty, $5. Shout out to Hoy Speaker Marcus.
I think it's supposed to be House Speak, the House Speaker.
Oh,
Or the House.
House Speaker. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a little illiterate.
Salute JP for president of Black House.
I
Can't type English well.
My bad.
Leave Fatty alone.
No, that's how you pronounce it in Nigerian, probably Trigger.
No, it's not.
AP, what does your plan tell you to do when in most cases, especially black women, will leave their marriage? They have the highest divorce rate.
Vet better. Vet better.
Yeah, and
Or don't vet at all. Let somebody else do it.
That's a good one too.
Will, $10. Ladies on the panel, do you believe it'll show a bit of goodwill to men if women advocated for more fair family court laws?
Sure.
I think so. I
agree with that.
We talked about that in one of our shows, and most of the women, I can't remember everyone, agreed that laws should be changed to be much more fair. Ray Alexander, $5. Marriage benefits black men. Indifference to marriage limits black men economically. Is failure to marry keeping black men out of the middle class? Is failure to marry keeping black men out of the middle class? Maurice MX, 25. Man's ego is most important thing in a relationship.
We see.
I think that's part of the problem. Gerald Jacques, how did we get from leadership and marriage into IG like? Is there a certain amount of likes that will get you a ring?
No, but it get you some bling.
$6.99, sir. Hell, it's all cap. They will continue to open their wombs to the non-leaders and they qualified leadership, but what they see fit. Black men are 1 million times more married. You can fact check.
Well,
they're not.
I'm gonna call you out, Ray Alexander. Fact check that for us and then post it. Sir Hale, these broads couldn't spell leadership.
279. You did that for 279.
Should have rounded up for $3, honey.
Okay.
What he doesn't realize is that most of us up here had examples of leadership. So to sit here and say that we don't know, just because
I think we all have fathers.
Right. That my point is that a lot of times, I'm not saying that you don't need the example, but sometimes non-examples also teach you. Like, I don't have to smoke crack in order to understand it's going to be bad for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's certain things that you can observe and learn from that you may not necessarily have experienced directly. You understand? So for men and women both, like a lot of men that I like, my husband, for example, his father wasn't in the household for the duration. He left after a certain age. But were there some areas that would have benefited from him having a father in the household? Yes, but his father, the lack of his father being there, made sure that that wasn't going to be something that he wasn't going to do to his family. So he made sure he showed up and did what he did to maintain his family. And I think a lot of men are in that situation, since the stats show that majority of Black men grew up in single family households.
Okay, so let's go to our video. And this actually happened on Lapeef Wednesday, I think it was. What, Chaotic? Oh,
According to who? According to who? I would have hit that if I was her age. She was.
You know, you need to stop.
No, it's the truth. Cindy Tyson was a fox. Hold on for a second. Now, wait a minute. I'll tell you how the standard of beauty has always been dark. Now, I'm not saying she was a sex symbol, but how did Madam C.J. Walker become the most wealthiest woman in the country?
Because she catered to a concept of beauty that dealt with hair, which is $1 billion industry.
Oh yeah, you probably.
Yeah,
right.
she said nappy hair was bad. She said nappy Negro hair was a curse. So she promoted white people.
Anna, take it easy. Take it easy. Amira, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey guys.
How you doing? Amira, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you are superior because of your light skin? Keep it real. Uh-oh.
In some countries, yes. I mean, in certain areas, yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Simply because what you guys are talking about, I understand you're talking about the Black community, but I came to give you a small different perspective, because around the world, it's like this. It's not just Black community. But the thing that we don't have in other communities is dark-skinned people that stand up and say, do not attack the dark-skinned person because they are beautiful no matter what. Because in our cultures, no matter how ugly the girl is, as long as her skin is white, light, bright, almost white, oh, she's beautiful. Oh, she's beautiful. And it's like the darker skinned girl could be way prettier, have better features and everything, but that doesn't matter because she's dark.
Go ahead, Amir.
Okay, you guys, what do you think about that? Let me put us back.
I think we should let the ladies unpack this one first.
You know, I think that the thing that's, well, I want to know what you guys think, because I don't want to put the video up. So go ahead. I'll go first. I don't mind, but
go ahead.
One of the things that stood out to me the most is back to us, the betrayal, what we put out there about ourselves. Okay, the thing that stood out the most to me with the mirror, and this is just how I took it, was there's no way I'm going to degrade myself. Anybody who looks like me, I'm going to put them on a pedestal, regardless. They can be ugly. I don't care what they look like. I am going to promote me. And that's what I got from it. Because the first thing she said was, there are not people who are dark skinned who are taken up for these women. But if we were in the same situation, and if it were me and my complexion, what we do is we promote our skin complexion. That's what I got out of it. Did anybody else get it? Maybe I didn't articulate it, you know. Do you understand what I was saying, Della? Because you look confused. Okay, so do you want me to rewind it?
No, I heard it, but I just didn't understand your perspective on it, I guess.
So the point, because what I should have done was the CJ Walker part, that was extra. That wasn't the point. But one of the things that I heard her say was, there are not enough dark-skinned people or people of color who promote it, who stand up have the person's back. Because the whole conversation, maybe I should say that, the whole conversation was Chaotic had brought up a picture of a woman that he thought was beautiful. She was a dark-skinned woman, and Candace Owens knocked her down, was like, she's not that beautiful. And so that was what the whole conversation was about. And so Amira came up, and one of the things she said was, well, there are not enough people to promote it, like to defend it, so to speak. And then she went and used an example of, if it were her, you know, her people, they don't care if, you know, she's not attractive as the other person. You're going to promote me. I'm going to promote me. I'm not going to, am I making sense? It's not.
Yeah, I guess I heard what she said completely differently, and I could be wrong. My interpretation of what she said was that in her countries, it's different compared to the Black community, because in her country, it doesn't matter if you're dark skinned and you're more beautiful than, let's say, a fair skinned woman. Yeah, the dark skinned woman would be considered undesirable, where we're like in the Black communities, you know, we uplift our melanated sisters. Like,
oh, I agree with that.
My perspective.
I agree with that as well. No.
So,
and the reason why I said the part I said was because if you listen to her first statement before that statement, she said there are not enough people of that color promoting that. You didn't hear
her culture.
In
her culture.
No. She said no. I'm going to bring it back up so you just see that what I'm talking about. Okay, just that part. Let me see if I
On a
find
scale
it.
of 1 to 10, Amir, what would you give this?
Oh, just the first part that she said. And I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
The point I was making, though, is these beautiful Black women, I want them to be conceited. I want them.
No, that's too far. Sorry.
Knew it. D, what if I told, I'm a little bit older. What if I told you that dark women,
okay, I think it's right.
What if I told you that dark women have always been?
I just don't.
Oh, yeah, you probably.
Yeah,
right.
she said nappy hair was bad. She said nappy Negro hair was
not that
curse.
part.
So she
Now,
promoted
Anna,
white
Anna, take it easy. Take it easy. Amir, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, guys.
How you doing? Amir, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you are superior because of your light skin? Keep it real. Uh-oh.
In some countries, yes. I mean, in certain areas, yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Simply because of what you guys are talking about. I understand you're talking about the Black community, but I came to give you a small different perspective, because around the world, it's like this. It's not just Black community. But the thing that we don't have in other communities is dark-skinned people that stand up and say, do not attack the dark-skinned person because they are beautiful no matter what. Because
so that part, dark-skinned people standing up.
Right. Referring in other countries.
Yeah. But I'm saying dark-skinned, period. I'm not necessarily in our country, just period.
Well, I can't speak outside of what my experience is, but what I notice here in the States, at least, you know, when I was younger, it wasn't always the experience. There were, you know, very melanated girls that I went to school with, and even melanated, you know, boys that I went to school with, and they were not desirable at all. So the more fair skinned you were, the more desirable you were. And I'm really happy that we're kind of moving away from that kind of culture. And so my current experience is very different. I mean, like melanated women are very much so desirable from my experience. I personally think that they're, you know, they're beautiful.
So I think
it has a way of making the world really small right now. And
so I'm not. Yeah, I don't know what the actual question is, but I wrote several notes down. Colorism is really a global issue.
Agreed.
You know, it's not something here in the States or anything like that. But I too, Team Della, I thought that we were getting out of the colorism in the Black community in America. And once I began working in the corporate world, I realized that's a lie. And it's really the same way white supremacists hide their racism. I'd say women in general, they hide their colorism in the same way by pretending that they're not. And I think it's such a deep-seated issue that it's psychological. I noticed the way women, especially black women, separate themselves into friend groups when they go out. Right? You'll see it. You see the colorism there. They got a bunch of friends. They can have an equal amount of light-skinned friends, equal amount of caramel friends, equal amount of dark Lupita-looking friends, and see the group they want to go out with. Right? I think it's deeply psychological. And I didn't know this. Like I said, I thought it was going away. But watch the way these women insult each other and the way they treat each other when they're angry. That's why I say they're hiding it. It's not gone anywhere.
Are you referencing like Gen Y and like?
Yeah, I mean, no, millennials on up. Yeah, exactly. Millennials, Gen Z, everyone. We do a better job of hiding it because we're right now in a time of trying to be inclusive and you're my sister and we all get money. No, it's all fake. It's phony. At break people down to bare bones, give them something to compete over, and it all comes out all over again.
I mean, I definitely think that experience is true for you, for sure. I would say for me, I'm not going to negate that is not a valid point. I would just say I certainly feel the energy shifting to where Black women are actually, or melanated women are actually, their beauty is actually acknowledged. I mean, I'm not saying that we've done a 180, but I am saying that we are making steps forward to where, melanated women, because I feel like when it comes to men, for whatever reason, dark-skinned men have always been some kind of desirable, even to white women, for whatever reason. They really have. But when it comes to melanated women, it has not always been the case. And so I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. But I will say that there are steps being moved forward in the right direction.
No, I definitely, we don't actually disagree. We're actually talking about two different things. You're talking about the representation of darker women in media and in movies. And I mean, Black Panther is a dark-skinned movie. Like, if you wanted to say that, right? So it's profitable now, and it used to not be before. But I'm talking about the relations and the dynamics between Black people and on a personal level, and in a corporate level. I do not believe it's gone anywhere.
Okay.
So I would actually agree that y'all both making the same point, but I think it's different parts of the point. Because when the propaganda occurs, that the beauty standards that people adhere to of the past are not the beauty standards of today. And that may be why she's saying she feel the strides coming, because I see a push to Black Girl Magic and everything to highlight melanated women. And I'm for it. I hope they push more for the natural hair looks and the all the things we was talking about earlier. You like to see in a wife and all those things. I hope that keep getting pushed forward. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a time where I was brainwashed to the colorism too. You know what I'm saying? Like Jada had a song. My first addiction was G.I. Joes and Ices. After that, it was light skinned girls and Nikes. Everybody was like the light skinned John. And then it started to change as you got older and start understanding, like, some of these images aren't my actual preference or opinion. Is what kind of I was curious to like, and then moved away from it. But that shit is real, and it's deeply ingrained psychologically. And if you're not like actively aware of it, it can sit there and manifest into something else. In the way you treat other people, the way people fear dark-skinned man, like the police fear him way more than equally sized light-skinned or white man. All of that stuff, it factors in. And I agree, people hide it.
There's a rapper named Light Skin Keisha, and she ain't even light skin for real. Come on, this stuff.
Listen, that was my student. Step back. Leave her alone. She was on my cheer squad.
I think that there is some remnants left over from the whole light skin privilege and stuff like that. So I don't want to say that that doesn't exist, because it does. But I do agree with Team Della in the fact that I definitely have also seen more strides and more push to kind of combat that. And I, for one, definitely can appreciate that, just because I have seen, you know, the negative impact of the focus on, you know, the light skin, dark skin thing. And I just think what's so great about Black people is the diversity that we do have. So even if you, I know it's something about, even if you want to be with somebody white, you can get a Black woman that looks white. You know what I'm saying? Or if you want to go the other direction, it's just, I just love our diversity when it comes to our skin complexion. And I think if we look at it as a whole, as it being good, as opposed to like pitting one against the other, I think that's where the problem comes in. But I mean, it's beautiful. Black is beautiful.
Well, I'm gonna say that this is it. It's recent. We're talking within the last 4 years, maybe, where darker skinned women have become objects of beauty.
Mhm.
Prior to that, it the truth is colorism was very, 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 very real, and it's just recent where it's okay, and you are beautiful in your super dark, almost ultra bluish tint skin. To me, that's ridiculously beautiful. There are some models, some African models that are just, oh my god, jet black, but ridiculously gorgeous. But again, that's that's not something that's been going on for a long time. That's recent. But that's where I stand. I don't really disagree with any of you, but in my past, like I said, I'm the middle child, the darkest. My grandmother was half white and half Indian, and of course my grandfather he was a chocolate man, but I'm the darkest of all the group. I more represent my father's side, which is that Creole Louisiana side. And growing up, all it was my light skinned older brother and my light skinned younger sister. And yeah, I was a joke. Like I was the butt of many jokes. And so to me, I man, first to what he said about with Candace and that IG model, oh my God, she was beautiful and Candace should have shut her mouth. But black is just gorgeous in all of its various shades, from super light skin to ultra dark skin. Not everybody's pretty, but the shades,
That's what I was going to say.
the
I think
shades
that's what it
are
is.
gorgeous.
I think that is the problem with colorism, is that many times the darker skin is associated with ugliness and the lighter skin is associated with beauty, which I think beauty is beauty regardless. Like you could be light skinned. I've seen ugly light skinned women just like I've seen ugly dark skinned women. Ugly is ugly, beautiful is beautiful. That doesn't change based on the complexion. I mean, I'm being honest.
I
A
mean,
person
But
who's
she goes
attractive, a person who's attractive is going to be attractive regardless.
so this is one of those things that I believe. I think, like I was telling Team Della here, I think it's one of those things that happens on a representation level. So we are definitely, now I'm sure we're talking about two different things, because I heard someone make a statement that who said dark-skinned women are ugly? As a matter of fact, more dark-skinned women, I'm telling you right now, this is a complete anecdote, but I'd bet my entire year's salary on it. More dark-skinned women are married than light-skinned. I'm telling you right now.
Man, I was thinking the same thing.
Look, I'm telling you.
I
So it's like
agree. I
on a
agree with that.
representation level. And first off, when white men get with black women, they're going full Lupita. You see, so it's like on a representation level, we're looking at what's put out into the mainstream because we're so caught up in what's being marketed. But on a ground level, it's almost as if the people who do the choosing, which are the men, I'm married to a chocolate woman. I really don't prefer like for some reason I've always had a trouble accepting if they were fully black. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, but I just feel like black men love chocolate women, and it's represented in the most important way and the decisions they make. That's why I'm like, I think it's a representation versus what's actually happening.
I agree, and that's what we say. They promote the light skin. You're going to see that on social media. You're going to see that in the magazines. You're going to. So I mean, even a study, they repeated a study that they did back in the '60s with the doll test or whatever. Those kind of things. So it definitely those messages and images of what is good and right and beautiful typically end up on the lighter side or the white side. And I appreciate the active mindset of trying to combat that by promoting more beautiful dark-skinned women. Because I mean, if you're beautiful, again, like I said, if you're beautiful, you're just beautiful. You know, I don't think the skin color would matter, but I definitely agree with pushing the narrative of Black is beautiful and promoting darker skin, beautiful women.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, light skin, medium skin, dark skin, we're Black. And we're all looked at as Black. So it's really like the whole colorism aspect is this, you know, it creates this division amongst us. You know, everybody else looking at us, we're Black.
So go ahead, Sir Harold, you haven't spoken.
I just don't see most men talking about this. I've never seen a dude like this, man. I would get with her, bro, but she too dark, bro. I just can't do it, man. I have heard women say, I can't get with him because I want to have I want to have some light skinned kids with some good hair. Right. And I think that the colorism we're talking about, I think we're suggesting that this is like Black men and Black women, you know, both have this equal contribution to this. When a lot of this stuff to me is perpetuated from a lot of times from my mothers or aunties that grew up hearing about colorists, and you know, and you start kind of giving that false praise. I'm gonna tell you something that happened to my daughter. So I'm married 15 years. I got 2 daughters and 2 sons. One of my daughters is darker, and someone proceeded to compliment my dark-skinned daughter as if there's a problem with her dark skin. Does that make sense? So it's like the compliment is So the compliment ain't because she's a pretty girl who happens to be dark skinned. It's the compliment is more so in spite of her being dark, girl, just know you're beautiful. As a father, I'm like, oh hell no. We're not gonna plant those seeds in my kid. And I think that the colorism we're talking about, it doesn't just happen anywhere. A lot of this stuff happens in our homes where I agree with Trigger Mike. When you start getting upset and you dig for the most hurtful things, and we know that colorism piece is part of that, we'll reach for it. And I think that a lot of this could be eradicated if more of our women, you know, that's my dark skinned child, or you pretty for a dark skinned girl, or a girl, you can't wear this because this don't match your skin. Instead of telling her what doesn't work, show her what actually does work. And you know what I mean? And you infuse that sense of beauty for her, not because she's dark skinned, but because she's beautiful. I think mothers and women have a profound impact on daughters because men gonna like what we gonna like. Let me tell you something. Now, Black is beautiful, but no one can tell me that Lupita with her dark self ain't one of the finest things you've seen roaming this earth, right?
Yes, sir.
Because attractive is attractive, right? And she's not attractive as a dark-skinned woman. She's just attractive who happens to be dark-skinned. I think we've got to promote that.
Yeah. So that scene where she's standing there and the latest Black Panther looking over the water, I had to like look at my wife like, does she see me staring this way? And she's like, I see it too. I see it too. I was like, good God.
Anybody else point? Because I will have to. The video continues, and she does explain the same thing you explained. Do you guys want me to play it? It's the same thing, but it's just elaborated. No. Okay, but she goes into why she feels in the mental that people think that way. So no.
Well, I think
we're open. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said what now?
I was just saying, if you want to, that's fine.
No, if you guys don't want to, we don't have to play it.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay. We don't even care why they think that what they think, huh?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, but and the reason why I wanted to have the conversation because I didn't know if it was a bigger because I know a lot of guys go overseas and they date women and everything. But I even noticed that when I was online because I think of a universal, and I think that everybody does follow what the West does. We're kind of like trendsetters or whatever. But even it was crazy to me that even Black women in Brazil aren't marrying. Did you guys see that? Have you guys seen that on the internet? That their numbers are even low when it comes to being asked to being married. And I was just thinking, like, I wonder why that is. Because the girl couldn't explain it. She just
when
said,
you talk about colorism, there is actually worse. So if you know some Brazilians, their colorism culture is some of the worst, I think, in the world. So like to the point of it sparks violence type of thing. So that's one of the reasons I can tell you why. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that is really. Does anybody else want to add? I don't mind. Somebody asked if we could.
We can read the super chat.
The super chat, but then I didn't mind dropping the link, but not for long. Maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, Bob 23456. Bob 199. Colorism is mainly a female issue. I don't think so.
And maybe now. I think that when we were growing up, I think that maybe it is now. We can't say what's going on now because I haven't had those issues, but I do have friends who experience some from men. And even when it's like, oh, you know how you be like, oh, hook me up with, it's like, oh, she's beautiful, but I'll take, and I'm like, why? And it's that whole, she's pretty for a dark-skinned girl, and it's like, I even have a girlfriend who's dark-skinned, she's married, but she didn't want to have a daughter because she didn't want her daughter to experience what she went through. Yeah, so it's definitely there. And she didn't experience it from females. That's not what she said to me. So it's kind of like you have guys who love dark-skinned women, and fortunately she's got one. And then you have some people who are, even when it comes to men, though, even though men, I think, we always say the black of the berry, but even men, I've been on panels with a guy who's from Africa. What's his name? And he was saying, people used to say African booty scratcher, or he used to make jokes, back in the day. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The African, he's like on everybody's panel.
Talking about chaotic. My bad.
What was his name? Y'all know I'm talking about. He's like he calls in on people's podcasts, mostly Fight Club. I've seen him late night on Fight Club.
Eric.
What's his name?
Patriarchy Strikes Back.
Who?
The Patriarchy Strikes Back.
Not patriarch. He's not light. Patriarch is light. This guy is African.
Let me find out. Eric out here calling people African booty scratchers.
No. He was saying how when he was growing up, they used to call him that.
Oh, chaotic.
So, what's his
name? Daler.
Is that his name?
It might be.
It could be Daler. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so
well, he has an African accent, right?
He does.
It's Daler. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely the whole like light skin privilege kind of thing where, especially, and it's not just amongst women, it's how we are accepted from the collective, so, to y'all's point, we're kind of moving in the direction where more melanated women are being accepted mainstream and, collectively. So, I mean, yeah, it's certainly not just an issue that's among women. It's definitely
Black David. I think that's his name. Black David. I think that's his name.
By men as well.
In the early 2000s, when we'd be like in bottle service and stuff, I've been around some people that wanted a specific type of looking girl. They wasn't going like the colorism shit is real, and they pretty much say it to the promoter.
Well, the reason why I think it can be. Sometimes it can be colorism, but the weird thing that people don't realize is that Black men actually have a spectrum of women that are Black to choose from. So when a white dude, I've never heard a white dude say, "Give me the palest woman you got." No, they just look at white women as white. They might want them tan, but you don't really see that. It does go into like Middle Eastern cultures they don't want a dark woman. But black men primarily have a spectrum of colors of women to choose from. And then I've noticed also, if you want to know a man's preference, sometimes just look at his mother. He may not have a light skin preference because he doesn't like dark skinned women. His mom is just light. Right, so you got to look at it that way too, because
or maybe his mom is dark.
I definitely agree,
dark,
but I can also
light.
say that there's a fine line between preference and patterns, and at the end of the day, I can't negate the fact that melanated women, the colorism issue has also been perpetuated by Black men. Not just the color of our skin, but then if she's a melanated girl and she's got textured hair, she's got 4A, 4B, 4C hair that doesn't grow very long, like she's a Black one. Like when you start adding these features in, yeah, they are not, yeah.
Look, to trigger Mike's point, right? My mother is probably the color of Sir Hale, but my grandmother is like a in between Dahlia and Shan color. Like it's like an orangish dark color. My grandmother kind of helped raise me more than my mom, so that was the color that I was primarily attracted to based off that. Like that does happen. Like if maybe me and my mom's relationship would have been different, I might have wanted the woman that was the same color as her. All those things might play into it. I'm not gonna hold you.
And this is a piggyback. I think one of the guys said this. I don't know if it was Mike or Sir Hale, but one of the things, because I have a friend, he actually brought this up to me as well, because I was wondering why he chose the wife that he chose. And we were talking about colorism and all that stuff. Well, his wife is not Black at all, which was cool. I like his wife. But one of the things that
sarcasm.
Huh?
Sarcasm was written all over you.
No, I do like his wife. But I liked all of his girlfriends. Like I liked them all. It was just wondering, like, how did he choose her when you had so many great ones? Like God bless you with all these great girlfriends. And it's like, okay, luckily I liked them all. He just had a good picking, And so my question was, well, what made you settle down with her? Because they were all so great, and and he would even speak highly of them. And so when we started talking about colorism and everything, and it was just different topic. But one of the things that he mentioned was, he said, in our, his mom did that to him. Like, for example, when he brought a dark-skinned girl home, his mom was like, nah, she too dark, she too this, she too that. Okay. He said, and then, it kept going on. He said, and finally I brought this chick home, and she's like, well, how you get her? He was like, what? He said, so women do that to their kids, their sons. I think I told you that story, right? Mistaken. When he was here. But you're right. Women do it to their sons. They do. They put that inside their heads.
Oh, yeah.
So. All right, go to the next super chat.
Okay. Oh, that was a super chat, wasn't it?
Yeah. Sunny Black. Global from Asia to Middle East push lighter skin. Yes, it is a global phenomenon. Harrison Davis, salute. Harrison Davis, Shan with the librarian look. I'm not mad at it.
Okay, library.
YouTuber user. Ladies, you can disagree without attacking.
Did we attack anybody?
You attack Trigger Mike.
Whatever.
No accountability.
Those married men vetted. Bob, a man making fun of another man for being dark or light would be seen as a weak insult.
You do. How many of y'all sit there and be like, he light skinned, he weak? Don't do it.
It doesn't carry. No, I think the point is the last part of that said it doesn't carry the same weight. And he's right. I think colorism impacts women more so than it impacts men.
I agree that it did impact women, but you understand that there was a time when people just would. I have had friends, I'll bring a light-skinned man home. What you got that light-skinned dude for? Like, they try to weaken my light-skinned dude. Like, what? Don't do him. Be fine. Don't do it.
Darker skin men have always been very much so more desirable.
You say what now?
I was just saying, like, I agree, like more melanated skinned men have always been more desirable compared to, more melanated women.
Like as men,
Tell
though,
Prince
a
that.
solid dude is a solid dude.
Huh?
But for men, a solid dude is a
Like
solid
I'll
dude.
be sure.
That's because he was popular. Yeah, there was a time where light-skinned men were they call it in style.
Oh, the bars.
Through a phase where it was like you didn't get. I was the only person dating light-skinned men, and I was okay with it.
But after New Jack City, it was after that.
New Jack City screwed it up.
Never liked you anyway, you pretty
After New Jack City, it was a wrap.
New Jack City screwed it up.
All my cousins in New York was like, "We got this throne now." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That is crazy. That is so funny how we follow trends. That is so freaking true. That is so true.
It's because the dark skin dude killed white skin.
Yeah, Christopher Williams.
You said what now? Somebody said something. Somebody said it's because of what?
I said it's because Nino Brown ended up killing the caramel / light skin colored fella. So it was symbolism in a sense. And wow.
It was done. After that movie was over, it was done. I was like, dang, that go up. But you know what's so funny? Why do we follow trends like that? Because remember how loving basketball now all dudes want a basketball player, the girl on the basketball team, you know?
Yeah, that was my celebrity lookalike. Omar Epps was my celebrity lookalike.
You said what?
That was we both have P-shaped eyes. So when I had,
you do have.
When I was slimmer, they were all like, "Ooh, he looked like Omar." I caught a lot of that man.
Oh God!
I don't know what I could do to repay you, but
oh gosh, that's horrible. Okay, so I dropped the link for like 5.
You have finished? Did you finish all of the super chats?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. Did you guys have any last minute? I thought it was like decent conversations. Good.
Oh no,
just one thing. I'm gonna actually drop off real quick, but just one thing I wanted to say. There was a time, and this is going back to the very beginning of our conversation of this string. There was a time when that Bangin' in Little Rock came out, right? During that time, it was an era that was really tough and bleak for the Black community. It was where art was the imitation of life.
Mm-hmm.
Since times have changed and progressed from those days, it has become more of instead of art imitating life, life is imitating the art.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of this has gone wrong when we talk about the Meg Thee Stallion, the Tory Lanez, the guy that was shot at the Waffle House. These are guys that never really lived that life, from what I understand, and that life caught them, because I mean it's in their lyrics, it's in their music, it's and they just don't live it. And I think I really believe this. The only way to get control back of the community, to get control back of the culture, is for us, men, to lead properly. For all the women that are not in their that aren't wanting to be wives and not living a wifely way, leave them heifers alone. Leave them alone. Fuck them.
Can you still
don't give them like going back to what Trigger Mike and he said, and I don't want to drill back down on this, when he said he click a like on the booty picture, right? Not only did the person you click that like on see it, but everybody else sees those likes, and that attention. Women crave attention more than just about any damn thing. If they see that one picture, that type of picture can get 2 million likes, why don't I do 2 million pictures to get 16 million likes? Why not? And that's what they do. And then all of her damn friends, then all of her damn friends do it, and we end up with this foolishness that we have now. And this is where I do agree with you, though, Trigger Mike. We don't marry them. We don't marry those females.
But we're talking about younger women. A lot of these women are younger, so but even with that, are they really looking for marriage like 21, 22? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So,
the problem is that they eventually will be.
right. But unfortunately, they're not looking that far in advance.
And the craziest part about it, but to AP's point, the women. So the funny thing about liking pictures and women getting a certain type of feeling from that, and then propelling that into certain type of behaviors and life choices. I've always looked at. I was just having a conversation with somebody. They were like, "Would you date a girl that did OnlyFans and turned her life around?" I said, "No." I was raised traditionally. If your mind is to that you could ever do something like that, you can't get a ring from me. I'm not an idiot. Tigers don't change their stripes. So, that's why maybe that's why we can compartmentalize that in a way such as we're never really looking at those women seriously. So, is it worse that I like the picture or that a woman paraded herself around to like that on social media? Like, you have to really understand the dichotomy there.
I don't think one is worse than the other. I think it's kind of like a easy cop out to be like, oh, what I'm doing is not that bad compared to what she's doing. At some point, it's just
what I'm doing is not that bad compared with
I
what
beg to differ. I
if
think
she
it's
had her
both
ass
for her
out.
shaking her behind.
Yeah, just to kind of finish
yeah.
off what I was saying, it's just like at the end of the day, when you engage it, you're engaging it, period. And the fact that she's doing it. At the end of the day, you're still exemplifying some form of behavior. And as a married man or a man that is in a monogamous relationship, as a married woman, a woman in a monogamous relationship, there are things that are appropriate and there are things that are not, which is all relative to you and your spouse. Obviously, no one can speak on what anyone else's situation, but I think at the root of it, what we were the whole meeting of the minds behind of it is like, if we're women and we're like, okay, well, this is how we view it as women. Obviously, men and women process things differently and we view things differently. So it's just a matter of us sharing with you our perspective on how we feel when we observe that happening.
In the interest of fairness, though, is that the same sentiment for women who like the picture as well?
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
AP mute up.
They thought too.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be this is just my opinion. I do believe the behavior in terms of male or female, whatever, being half naked, twerking, shaking it, half like scantily dressed. If I had to do a judgment call, I do think that behavior is worse than the person liking the picture. And the reason I say that is because you can't see the person liking the picture. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the outward expression of the negative behavior. Not to say that the behavior of the person liking a picture is it perpetuates the behavior even more. So I think that's just as bad. But I guess, just from my personal opinion, I do think that accountability, if the picture was never there to begin with, you wouldn't have anything to like. You know what I'm saying?
I got questions.
Like when you think about it, it's all cyclic.
I agree, because it's like looking at the difference between
do you agree?
Crackhead and a dealer. Do you blame the dealer or the crackhead?
Do you think men should go to the strip club?
That doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I do think there is, and it's the kind of like, it's the same thing with pornography. It's like when you live in this sense of, when you're putting yourself in this false sense of reality rather than being like in real life. And so you're like online liking all of these pictures, you're watching all this pornography, you're staying in the strip club. It's the same exact thing with spending all of your time on the PS4. It's like you're giving yourself this false sense of, oh, I'm getting the girl, or oh, I'm getting, and it's not real life. And so you're winning in all of the wrong spaces. And then you come out of this whole, then you unveil yourself and you realize the life that you're really living in. So Yeah, I think it's all interconnected. You're on Instagram and you're liking these half naked women. You're staying in the strip club. You're drinking all the time. You're engaged. Like it's all promiscuous behavior that leads from one step to the next, to the next, to the next. And so at some point you end up playing with fire. You're bound to get burnt at some point.
So as long as I can remember, I haven't been to the strip club in quite some time. I actually grew up in one. Don't ask me no questions. But my dad and my uncle were strip club owners. But you do realize that women attend. So
but Trigger Mike, before you say that though, I just want to say we're against an IG like, but strip clubs are okay.
Thank you.
Listen,
that's where I was going.
Bible, the Lord said,
y'all live in Atlanta.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, I was referencing patterns of behaviors. Obviously, Instagram likes are more easily accessible than you going out with your boys every now and then, and y'all just so happen to go to a strip club, and it's like, okay, now I'm home. It's a very but I also did just mention that it's the pattern of the behavior. And so you're on Instagram, like you're following all of these Instagram models, you're liking all of these pictures all of the time. Are you in the strip club all of the time? Or did you just go out with your boys one night and y'all just had a long night one night? At some point, I think they're different. Right. So when I said it,
if you're making it a lifestyle.
I think that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get it out, but yeah.
Let me just give you my last thought on this, okay?
And sorry, we'll let you in the second part.
Yeah, brothels, concubines, and polygamy, all things that are either illegal or frowned upon in this country, were legal 200 years ago, all over the world. Somehow, with all of those things in society, men still found a way to create families, progress society, take care of their children. But you're telling me now that a IG like in a strip club hold the same weight as those things.
So let me. I think that the original. This is a totally different conversation than we were having before. We were strictly talking about you promoting it, meaning more women are going to want to do it because that's how they get you're giving them attention. So those women are going to want to do that to get that attention that you're giving. Now you guys are talking about some lifestyle stuff. It's past 12 o'clock and we have changed the
hour.
Like, what are we doing here? Little podcast, welcome.
What up, though, y'all?
He's got the mic.
He ain't got no neck.
Chic is in the building.
What's up?
Is it frozen?
No, I ain't frozen.
It's
So wait a minute. So Miss Taken, you hating on me because I'm dark skinned?
Who?
You hating on me because I'm dark skinned? Is that what happened?
It's his screensaver.
Okay, that's I was like, no, not at all.
Ask him the colorism question.
What was the?
Wait a minute, hold on. Before we do that, can I just get this off my chest?
Go ahead.
So, I just want to thank Mrs. Team Della for all of your am I saying it right?
Yeah, you did it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to thank you for all of your commentary tonight, because it helped me reaffirm how much I hate feminism, and how much I support manosphere and red pill content. And that's not a diss. We need these type of conversations. That's why I love Chic Critique. It's the second best podcast on YouTube next to me. And yeah, but I just want to say, like, the way that you think. It's like, if I say what's worse, the cops who beat Rodney King or the fact that I watched the video, right? One of them is worse than the other one. We can't click a like on Instagram if the girls aren't there. We can't watch them shake their behinds at the strip club if the girls aren't there. I am an advocate for pornography, but I do understand that I couldn't watch it if the girls didn't participate because I'm not there for the dudes. So at the end of the day, I understand what you all were saying about the accountability of men. We do have a responsibility to a certain degree to promote, as you described it, that which we like. But I think Trigger Mike made a great point
when he said, right, that marriage is the greatest promotion, is the greatest form of promotion. What are we typically marrying, right? There's no way for us to really quantify this right now, but I would agree with him when he said he believed that most married black women would probably be dark skinned, even if it was just by a very small percentage. I would agree with that. Just like I tell people all the time, when I go to grocery stores and I see the women with rings, they're usually not the quote unquote baddies. The women I see with the rings on usually got some weight on them, you know, feet kind of fat, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that, weave all down their back. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about is just narratives that we kind of push on each other, as well as that has been pushed on us by the media. But as far as the colorism argument go, I really don't know what you expect from me, Trigger Mike, because I agree with the sisters. Like, dark-skinned men, for one, have always been, you know what I'm saying, accepted widely to me, you know, by older women. But when we were younger, let's stop playing. The light-skinned dude was what was popping. This is what it was. He was light-skinned, the green eyes, the curly hair. He was what was popping. He was hitting all the girls that we really wanted, which just so happened to be the dark-skinned girls. When I was young, I had an affinity for dark-skinned girls, but they didn't like me. Why? Because I was dark-skinned.
That's a fact.
I had no swag. But at the end of the day, once I realized that the light-skinned girls liked me, then I went with what liked me, right? Because you get tired of the rejection.
I was just talking about the fact that you don't even like black girls at all. That's what I was.
I usually notice
That is not
the
true.
opposite. If it's a light-skinned girl, then typically it's a dark-skinned guy. And
Right.
if it's a dark-skinned girl, then it's a light-skinned guy.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing about it is, like, I would say this. So this is when I was young. I can't really speak to what's going on now, right? But I would say when I was younger, growing up, it seemed like the dark-skinned guys, it's kind of like making a high-value argument, right? The dark-skinned guys was getting the light-skinned girls, but it wasn't the nerd dark-skinned guy. It wasn't the clumsy dark-skinned guy. It wasn't the goofy dark-skinned guy. It wasn't the poorly dressed, no name brand wearing dark-skinned guy. It was the popular dark-skinned guy. It was the dark-skinned guy that was on the basketball team or the football team. It was the dark-skinned guy that was a hustler in them streets. He had on the Nikes and the Jordans. He had swag about himself, right? It was the dark-skinned guy with the light-skinned guy's behavior, where he was very nonchalant towards the women and their come-ons, right? But at the same time, he would give them enough attention to satisfy his own desires. So even though you're right, you know what I'm saying, the way it played out, again, the average light-skinned guy was still bagging more chicks. I knew guys when we was 15, 16 that had women in their 30s that would pull up, pick us all up, take us to the gym, sit outside the gym for 4-5 hours waiting on this dude to come outside from the gym. Gladly just sitting out there reading the book because she want this light-skinned dude with this curly hair. Hopefully he gonna give me a baby with this light skin and this curly hair. That is really what they want.
Them baby, them jeans. You know, it's so funny that you brought up a topic, and I know this is off topic, but you brought up nerds. Do y'all know there's a difference between nerds and geeks, right?
No, what's the difference?
There is a listen.
All nerds aren't smart.
Listen. Yes, they're not all smart. I went to, if you're ever in Atlanta and you have to get your phone, please go to a place called Micro Center, especially the one in Duluth. Okay, listen, those are nerds. Okay, geek is like Geek Squad. He's kind of cool. He's got a little swag about himself, but he's a little geek too. You know what I'm saying? Nerds, they get excited when they see a computer. Like, oh, like it's like a. Now y'all get when y'all see a female, like they get that way about technology, you know, and you're like, and they like, I mean, they have like, and other nerds come in, they have conversation. They're like, yo, did you see this? And they're like, I'm like, wow, like I really just saw this. Like, I love it. It was beautiful, but
I never knew that.
I realized there was a difference between a nerd and a geek.
Right. I don't think I ever really looked at it that way, but I think it's kind of more exemplary now because like what's buddy name? Jonathan Barronville always says, ladies, the geeks are winning now, right? The nerds are winning now. Like, you know,
geeks are winning.
Y'all overlooked this.
Like they were single.
Well, matter of fact, but he always says nerds though. I just thought about that. So maybe he means
between, I even Googled it. There's a difference between the two the two
Right. So this is what I'm
definitions.
saying. Maybe when he says nerds, he means geek,
Geek.
right? By what you're saying. So he says nerds, but he means geek. Like, look, we winning now, right? We the ones out here. We
Geeks
getting
are
to the bag.
definitely winning.
We got
for
all the
sure.
tech jobs. We got the house overlooking on the hill. We ain't got no kids, no baby mamas, no felonies, all this other stuff. I have to give 1,000 pardons to my main man, Sir Hale. That was a lot of disrespect I just showed by not speaking to you soon as I hit the panel. That's my bad, brother. What's going on with you, my dark skinned brother?
That's what I'm saying. Our dark skin, we went into telepathic, man. I heard you, even though you didn't say nothing, bro. We all good, bro.
It's the lights in the background. It's the, you know, y'all got these little lights going on.
Exactly, dark skin for the win. Shout out to Trigger though and Marcus too, man. Hey, listen, I'm so glad that y'all back. Chic critique. These panels be the bomb, man.
Oh, thank you.
We can't
Swear to
promise
God.
every week, but we get here when we can.
That's what's up. I want to say really quickly before I jump down, because I know it's probably some other people want to come up. I want to say, the podcast is all that. I just want to wish him well and say, keep your head up, brother. I know YouTube is trying to attack your platform and all of that and demonetizing you and all of that. But you're gonna be all right.
You're gonna be all right.
You still sexy. You know what I'm saying? Even though you can't grow hair anymore.
We can't see, but
right.
still shot.
No, I just said, but salute to you, hey JR, man. Tap in with your boy, bro. Look, JR don't be want to have me on the panels because he know I'm broke. If y'all notice, all the men JR have on is 6 figures or better. Every last one of them. There's not nan broke dude on his panels. You gotta make room for the broke dudes. We matter. Section 8 for life. I'm gone.
Section 8 for life.
And then he admitted he was on Section 8.
Oh, we gotta end on that though. We were talking. You guys, thank you so much for being a part of the panel. Thanks to the chat for sitting here with us all night long. Thank you so much. You guys have been very, very awesome. People who have donated with the super chats, who given their opinion. I don't know what else.
We got another one.
Anybody have last?
And you know what we do in little podcast. Just if you guys have a channel yourself and you want to give your channel a shout out or your Instagram or whatever.
There's one more last super chat before we close out.
Oh, let me. I was about to.
Rebellious videos. The hub is never too tired or menstruating. Oh, okay. My bad.
Not sure.
Pornhub.
Thanks for the $2.
Does anybody have any last thoughts that they want to close out with?
No.
Representation matters. You can't expect people to change for the better if they don't have an example of that. Hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, y'all can provide that example because people need it. And to remove yourself from the problem does not make the problem no longer exist.
We didn't remove ourselves completely.
I ain't said nothing. I ain't said no shots. I just said
I would have to disagree.
50, 75%. We're still there.
When you don't focus on it, it don't come to you.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to JR, to It's Taken, Shan, Team Della, Marcus White, Trigger Mike, and everybody in the chat. Ladies, if you want marriage, act like it. It's just very simple. If you want to be married, act like you want marriage. Older women, it is your job to sell it, to market marriage in a way where it's attractive to young women. And once they do that, I think that men are going to come back as well. I also want to say, if you haven't hit that like button for this great channel, hit that like button and tell everybody to come subscribe to the Lapeef Experience. Great work over here. Again, thanks for having me, guys.
We'll see you again.
Thank you for coming.
We'll see you next Friday, you guys, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all, we can next.
No, hold on. Trigger Mike is going to close something out. You didn't give him a chance to put it.
It's because I'm dark. It's because I'm dark.
Trigger Mike, that's what you was talking about. That's the problem with black women.
No worries.
They just
that's the problem with black women.
It was
it's
fun.
a stress for me. I'm going to let you close out, Mike, but 2 seconds. You guys, tomorrow, what's Sunday is 2023, so I guess I'll see you guys next year. Go ahead, Mike. Close it out.
So I'm gonna take a completely opposite to my men's in them here. Men, leave, and I don't even mean that in a bad way. Make your choices, be concise, because the one thing women don't want is to be undesired. If you make their behavior undesirable, they will have no choice but to comply.
That's That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but I also mean like go somewhere else, bring other women back, and let them see what they missed.
As long as they're black women, I don't care. If you're gonna bring back a black Brazilian, if you go somewhere else, bring back a black one. I'm okay with
follow
that.
me at Trigger Mike Show on IG and YouTube, and thank y'all so much. This was awesome. I really love conversing with articulate women. I'm telling you, I'm not down to be in an echo chamber. I love the challenge. I love getting on here and sharing. This is what people need to see out in the world. They need to see us have an interesting dialogue, laugh afterwards, and just like we're human beings. All right. So thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Wait, can I just say one thing?
He had to laugh.
No, if anybody, no, what I wanted to say is that if anybody has any suggestions of topics that you may want to hear about on Chic Critique, you can hit us at
you can just leave it in the comments. We read Mistaken reads the comments. I really don't, but Mistaken does. Trust me, she will read them.
or hit Sham Monet.
My name is not Sham Monet. Anywhere else, we're here.
Monet. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Good night.
See you next year.